Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku. Back with another fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku's Promise Sparked a New Kind of Hero. Now before starting, please give this video a like. And subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Be warned, your quirk will be every quirk in the world. And I don't want to hear that the reader is too overpowered because the reader is not. With your powers come major setbacks that are serious. As you read on, I want you to pay attention because these setbacks will be mentioned, and you will have restrictions. So again, I do not want to hear that the reader is too overpowered. Please and thank you. You will not be getting this quirk until later on, just saying. Anyways, on to other information. Having this power means all the villains are going to come after you once they find out about you and your abilities. But let's begin with the story, shall we? Your POV: you are 4 years old at this point. I was swinging on the school swings when I heard someone crying. I looked up and saw a boy with dark green hair sitting on the ground near a tree. I got off the swings and ran to him to see if he was all right. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked as I sat in front of him. He slowly looked up at me, and I noticed the small scratches and burns on his face along with the tears that were falling from his big green eyes. I gasped and grabbed his hand, quickly pulling him up to his feet and walking into the school to the nurse's office. After the nurse treated him and put some bandages here and there, we went to grab our school bags because it was time to go home. As the green-haired boy and I waited for our parents to pick us up, I decided to introduce myself and become friends with him. "Hi, my name is LN. FN. What's yours?" I said to him. "My name is Midoriya Izuku." Thank you for helping me," he replied. He sounded a little shy, so I smiled and held out my hand for him to shake it and said, "Wanna be friends?" He gave me a little smile and shook my hand. "Yeah, sure." And that was the day Izuku and I became friends. Time skip, you're 15 now. "Izuku, slow down." I yelled at my best friend who was running in front of me. Because there's a villain at Tatooine Station, and he wants to see it get defeated by the pro heroes. He's a huge hero fan and loves watching the pros fight villains because he gets to take notes in his notebook. He wants to become a hero, but unfortunately, when he was little, the doctors declared him quirkless. He was devastated. I heard him crying from my house every night. Let's say I used to live in the apartment next to his until I moved to a house 3 minutes away from where he lives. But after I told him that I was also declared quirkless, we made a promise that we would become the greatest heroes, with a quirk or without one. To this day, we still keep that promise, and we both work really hard to accomplish it. "Hurry up, slowpoke," Izuku yelled, slowing down to grab my hand and drag me. "I swear this guy will kill me one day." Once we got there, we saw a huge villain on top of the train station and a massive crowd watching as the villain began to rampage. Izuku started to pull me to the front so we could get a better view. Pro heroes began to arrive, and everyone started to cheer. I was kind of hoping that All Might would come, but he didn't. I then remembered that he only appears when the villain is too tough for lower-ranked pros to defeat. Right, I forgot to mention, just like Izuku, I'm also a big fan of All Might. Not as big of a fan as Izuku is, but still a fan. After MD Lady arrived and dealt with the villain, Izuku began to take notes on her quirk and started mumbling some things I couldn't make out. I giggled at this because I found it really cute. Yeah, I also forgot to mention that I have a huge crush on my best friend. I've liked him since we were kids when he saved me from a bully. That kid's name was Katsuki Bakugo, but Izuku calls him Kaken because they used to be childhood friends until Bakugo got his quirk and became a major JRK. Time skip. Izuku and I were now walking through the entrance of our school, Aldra Junior High. We made it before the bell rang and sat at our desks. I sit next to him. "So, as third-year students, it's time to start thinking seriously about your futures and what you want to do with your lives," our teacher started as he looked at all of us. I could pass out some career tests, but why bother? He shrugged and snatched some papers from his table as he smirked. Suddenly, everyone began to show their quirks, smirking, knowing what he was going to say. "We all know you want to go to the hero track," he yelled as everyone cheered. I let out a sigh as I looked over at Izuku, who looked annoyed with all this. I felt the same, to be honest. Yes. You all have some pretty impressive quirks, but no power usage allowed in the school. Get a hold of yourselves, he said as everyone began to settle down. Hey Teach, don't lump me in with these losers. I'm the real deal, but these guys will be lucky to end up as sidekicks to some busted delinquent, said none other than Katsuki Bakugo, or in Izuku's case, Kaken. He seriously gets me annoyed sometimes with his overflowing ego. He always thinks he's better than everyone else, and that gets me heated. You think you're better than Katsuki, someone in the class shouted, and everyone agreed with him. Even I did, and I'm sure Izuku did too. Let's go. I'll take you all on right here, right now. Bakugo yelled back with a smirk on his face. I wish I could wipe that smirk off his face right now. You've got impressive test results. Maybe you will get into UA High, the teacher said as Bakugo smirked even more. People started mumbling, surprised that he was going to try for the national school, which is notoriously difficult to get into. I looked over at Izuku to see the shocked expression on his face. He let out a defeated groan and slowly lowered his head. I felt like doing the same. That's why it's the only school worthy of me, Bakugo declared, flipping himself onto his desk with his fist raised triumphantly. I aced all the mock tests. I'm the only one in this school who stands a chance at getting in. I'll be more popular than All Might himself. People all around the world will know my name. And it all starts with UA High. His words made me want to get up and throw him out the window. I was so angry that my face was probably red, and I could feel the tension building in my forehead. Oh yeah, Midoriya and Ellen, don't you guys want to go to UA too? He asked, and suddenly my anger turned to fear. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a frightened Izuku slowly looking up at Bakugo, who was frozen in shock. But I could sense the burning anger simmering inside him. I guess this was the end for Ellen and Izuku Midoriya. Everyone in the class turned to us, and silence filled the room until laughter erupted. My face turned red with embarrassment, while Izuku looked defeated and embarrassed. There's no way they're going to be heroes without a quirk, someone in the class said, still laughing. Actually, they got rid of that rule. W can be the first ones. Izuku bravely stood up, but Bakugo exploded his desk, sending Izuku flying back to the ground. Listen up, Deku. Bakugo shouted, standing over him as Izuku looked up in fear. You and that loser over there are even worse than these other rejects. You quirkless wannabes. You really think they would let you two in when they could have someone like me? He yelled, his voice dripping with disdain. He just called me a loser. That's it. Now he's gone too far. I stood up and stepped in front of Izuku, glaring fiercely at Bakugo. First off, don't call me a loser. I yelled, which turned out to be a mistake as he pushed me back, and I fell to the ground beside Izuku. No wait, we weren't trying to compete against you. You have to believe me. It's just that. I wanted to be a hero since I was little, and so did FN. I mean, we may not have a quirk, but we can still try our hardest, can't we? He finished, looking up at an extremely angry Bakugo. You'll never be able to be with the best of the best. You both will fail at the exams, he shouted, and everyone else smirked at us. What had we gotten ourselves into? Later that day, as school ended and everyone was leaving, Izuku and I packed our things. Man, that fight this morning is all over the news, Izuku said, checking his phone. Well, obviously. It's not something new. It's an everyday thing. Heroes fight, they win, and then they end up all over the news, I replied, finishing my packing. Anyway, I better write some notes down before I forget anything, he said, grabbing his notebook, only for Bakugo to snatch it away. I don't know what you think you guys are doing, but we're not done with our conversation from earlier, he said, waving Izuku's notebook in the air. There's nothing to talk about, Bakugo. If you think you're going to stop us from going to UA High, then you better think again, I said, glaring at him and his friends behind him. Shut it, you quirkless loser, he shot back. I was about to respond when one of his friends chimed in. What do you have there? His diary? The first friend said as Bakugo handed him the notebook, which had Hero Analysis for the Future number 13 written on it. Don't tell me you're taking notes on how to be a hero, the friend laughed. That's so pathetic, another added, joining in the laughter. Give Izuku his notebook back. I yelled at Bakugo, who smirked and destroyed the book with his explosion quirk, tossing it out the window. That was cold. Most top heroes have stories about their school days. I want the glory of being the only student to make it to UA from this lousy junior high school. I mean, I am a perfectionist after all, he said, reveling in his own arrogance. I felt so pathetic just standing there, shaking and not doing anything. I wasn't worthy of being Izuku's best friend. He deserved someone better than me. I watched as Bakugo placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder, making it smoke. So anyway, he said with a fake smile, don't apply to you, nerd. He let go of Izuku's shoulder, and Izuku tried to respond but couldn't find the words out of fear. Bakugo then approached me and did the same thing. Same goes for you, loser, he said, that same sickening fake smile on his face. How I hated him right now. After they left, I hung my head low in disappointment. Following that whole situation, Izuku and I walked out of school in silence. I glanced up to see his notebook floating in the school pond, surrounded by koi fish. I walked over, retrieved it, and handed it to Izuku. I'm sorry. I whispered. Why are you apologizing? It's not your fault, he replied. Well, I feel like it is, I exclaimed, catching him off guard. I could have done something. But I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. What kind of best friend am I if I can't even help you? How am I supposed to become a hero when I couldn't even stand up to that JRK? Tears streamed down my face. Izuku stepped closer and hugged me. It's not your fault. I understand that you were scared, and it's okay. We made a promise, FN, and we will accomplish that promise one day together, he said as I hugged him back, remembering the day we made that promise. Flashback. When we were 4 years old. FN, come on. It's computer time. Young Izuku exclaimed, holding his All Might action figure. My mom and I were visiting Izuku's mom as usual. I had an All Might cape on as I ran to Izuku's room to watch All Might's fight video with him. I don't understand why you kids enjoy this. It's quite frightening, really, Izuku's mom said as she started the video for us. We both focused intently on the screen, smiles spreading across our faces as the familiar footage began. The video we loved was an old one, showcasing a disaster that had occurred long ago, featuring the best hero the world has ever known. As All Might appeared on the screen and delivered his iconic line that always sent fans into a frenzy, Izuku and I jumped with joy and excitement. He's the coolest in the universe, we shouted in unison. Once we get our quirks, we can be heroes just like him. Izuku exclaimed. I nodded in agreement, and we fist-bumped, reveling in the happiness of that moment. Or so we thought. A week later, my mom informed me that Izuku's mom had called with some troubling news. The doctors had declared Izuku quirkless. Izuku's mom suggested that my mom take me to the hospital to see if I would have a quirk as well. When the doctors delivered the news to my mom and me a short while later, I felt utterly crushed. I was also quirkless. Once again, we found ourselves at Izuku's house. Our moms were chatting while Izuku and I sat on the floor, watching All Might with tear-streaked faces. Our moms stood at the bedroom door, worry etched on their faces. I hated that look. It felt like pity. See that, Mom? He always has a smile on his face, no matter how tough things get. Izuku said, his voice trembling. Even when everything seems impossible, he never gives up. I added, my voice shaky as well. When we turned to face our moms, I noticed tears welling in their eyes. Do you think we can be heroes, too, when we grow up? Izuku and I asked. After that, our moms hugged us tightly and expressed their sorrow about our situation. But that wasn't what we wanted to hear. Later, we lay on the floor, staring up at the ceiling with tired eyes. Hey, Stefan, let's make a promise, Izuku said, sitting up and looking at me. What's the promise? I asked, also sitting up. A promise that, with or without a quirk, we will work hard to become strong heroes like All Might. He said, offering a shaky smile as he extended his pinky. I smiled back, feeling a blush creeping onto my cheeks. Yeah, I like that promise, I replied, locking pinkies with him. And that's how our promise came to be. I looked up at him and nodded while I wiped my face with my sleeves. Alright, we should head home. Your mom is coming over to help mine make dinner. They're preparing my favorite food tonight, he said, adjusting his bag as he walked toward the door. Actually, you can go ahead. I left something back in science class. I'll catch up with you, I said, recalling that I had forgotten my notebook. Are you sure you don't want me to wait for you? He asked. No, go on without me. I'll see you in a bit, I replied, running back into the school. It was quiet and I admit it made me uneasy, but I pushed that feeling aside. As I reached the 3rd floor and entered my science class, I went to my desk and found my book with my homework tucked underneath. Just then, I heard the door close behind me. I looked up, expecting to see a teacher, but instead, I saw a man with wild white hair and glasses. He wore a white lab coat and had a cigar in his mouth. I decided not to question his presence and attempted to leave. Sorry, I came back to get my notebook, but I'll be going now, I said as I tried to exit, but he pushed me back. I don't think so, young lady, he said with a sinister smirk. He used his quirk to restrain me, and it happened so quickly that I couldn't react. I stared at him, fear washing over me. You're going to help me with an experiment, he said, laughing maniacally as he pulled out a medium-sized syringe filled with a red substance that shimmered with hints of gold. Panic surged through me. As he injected me with the red substance, I screamed, but soon I began to feel dizzy, and for some reason I didn't feel weak anymore. Black dots danced in my vision, and before I knew it, I blacked out, his maniacal laughter echoing in my ears. I slowly opened my eyes to see fire surrounding the room, but it stayed at a distance, not threatening me. As I sat up, I noticed the man in the lab coat lying motionless in front of me. What had happened? How did everything come to this? Did I somehow cause this? But how? I didn't even have a quirk. Unless. I glanced down at the shattered syringe on the floor. FN. I heard Izuku's voice call out. I couldn't remember anything after he injected me with that red substance. FN. My vision began to blur as I felt myself sinking back to the floor. My body was growing numb, and I struggled to keep my eyes open. FN. Hot tears streamed down my cheeks as I stared up at the ceiling, fighting against the encroaching darkness. FN. What happened to me? Izuku's POV. Before the incident. As I walked away, leaving Wayne behind to gather her things, I reflected on what everyone in class had said that day. Honestly, I wasn't sure how we were supposed to become heroes without a quirk, but I believed that somehow, someday, we would fulfill our promise to each other. As I walked through a tunnel, I heard strange noises behind me. I turned around slowly, my eyes widening at the sight of a giant, gooey villain looming before me. A villain? I shouted, panic rising within me. I felt frozen, unable to move or speak. You'll make a perfect skin suit for me to hide in, kid, the villain said, and in that moment, I screamed and tried to run, but he caught me, attempting to invade my body. Don't worry. I'm just taking over. It will be easier for both of us if you don't resist. It will only hurt for a moment. You'll feel better soon, he taunted as I struggled against him, but it was futile. I felt like I was going to perish here. Alone. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. YN. I'm sorry. Third-person POV. Just as Izuku struggled to breathe, a sewer cap flew out of nowhere, striking the villain. The creature looked back in fear, only to be met by the #1 hero, All Might. Have no fear. You're safe. All Might declared, though Izuku had already fainted. Now that I'm here, that is, he added with his signature smile. The villain lunged at him, narrowly missing. All Might retaliated, launching himself at the villain and delivering a powerful punch. Texas smash, he shouted, sending the villain flying and freeing Izuku. Izuku's POV. I was unconscious when I felt someone slapping my cheeks repeatedly. Hey, wake up. Hey, a voice urged. Annoyed, I opened my eyes to see All Might standing over me. Thought we lost you there. Geez, he exclaimed, letting out a sigh of relief. I yelled, backing away a few feet. Well, looks like you're moving all right, he said, and I continued to shake, unable to believe what was happening. All Might was right in front of me, talking to me. I thought I was dreaming. Sorry about that back there. I didn't mean to get you caught up in my heroics. Usually, I pay more attention to keeping bystanders safe. But it turns out, the city sewer system is pretty tricky to navigate. Ha, he chuckled as the world spun around me. I wasn't dead after all. I couldn't believe this was real. Anyway, you were a big help. Thank you. I've captured the villain thanks to you, he said, showing me 2 bottles containing the green, slimy villain from before. Holy cow. I need an autograph. I must have a pen here somewhere, I exclaimed, frantically searching. When I found it, I grabbed my notebook and asked All Might to sign it, only to realize he had already done so. I can't wait to show, YN. I thought excitedly. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, I said, bowing repeatedly. This will be a family treasure passed down for generations. I finished, and he gave me a thumbs up. Well, I need to get this guy to the police so they can handle him, he said, patting the bottle in his pocket. Stay out of trouble. See you around. All Might said as he prepared to jump. Wait, you're leaving already? I asked, feeling a bit sad. I might never see him again. Pro heroes are always racing against time and enemies, he replied, stretching and getting into position. No, he couldn't leave yet. I had so many questions. Now stand back. I'm taking off, he warned as he jumped, with me still holding on to him. Huh, he looked down at me and I screamed in terror, afraid I might fall. Hey, what do you think you're doing? All Might shouted. Let go. I love my fans, but this is way too much, he exclaimed, trying to get me to release my grip. Did he not realize that if I let go, I would fall? Oh, right. Well, hold on then, he said as we continued to soar through the sky. Time skip. When we landed on a random building, I told him I needed to ask a few questions before he left, but he refused, insisting he had to go quickly. Still, I managed to ask him one important question that I needed to know. So I could tell YN when I got back home. Is it possible to become a hero even if you don't have a quirk? I called out, loud enough for him to hear. He paused, glancing at me from the corner of his eye. I'm just a regular kid without any powers. And so is my best friend. Could we ever hope to become someone like you? I asked, closing my eyes and waiting for his response. Without a quirk? He began, but I noticed his body starting to emit smoke. People think my best friend and I don't stand a chance. I continued, looking down at the ground. They say that not having powers makes us weak. My classmates often tease us, especially me. But you know what? That just makes me want to prove them wrong. Ever since we were kids, we thought saving people was the coolest thing we could do. FN, and I want people to see our fearless smiles and feel safe, to be the kind of heroes everyone looks up to. I slowly lifted my gaze and opened my eyes. Just like you, I exclaimed, but froze when I saw a scrawny old blonde man standing where All Might had been. What? It who? What happened? Deflated. I stammered, staring at the man in front of me. Are you an imposter? I pointed at him. I assure you that I am he started, but then blood trickled from his mouth. What the heck? I exclaimed, feeling a wave of concern wash over me. He explained how he could transform, and honestly, I was shocked. This can't be real. I murmured, trying to determine if I was dreaming. Anyway, I'm counting on you to keep this to yourself. Don't talk about it online or to your friends, he said as he sat on the ground. I looked at him, confused, until he lifted his shirt to reveal a gruesome wound on his stomach. Gross, right? I got this in a big fight 5 years ago. My respiratory system was basically destroyed. I lost my whole stomach. All the surgeries have worn me out, and it can't be fixed, he explained, pulling his shirt back down. I felt a pang of sympathy for him. I had no idea this had happened. Right now, I can only do hero work for about 3 hours a day. The rest of the time? This is what I look like, he said, and I looked down at the ground, feeling heavy-hearted. Now I wished I had just let him go and not asked him anything. It was clear he didn't want to share this secret. No way. Is this the fight you had with Toxic Chainsaw? I asked. Wow. You know your stuff. But a punk like that couldn't defeat me. Most of the world has never heard of this fight. I requested it not be made public. I will save people with a smile. The symbol of peace cannot be daunted by evil. I smile to show the pressure of heroes, and to mask the fear inside of me, he said, looking straight at me as I gasped. Heroes are always risking their lives. Some villains just cannot be beaten without powers. So no, I honestly don't think you or your friend can become heroes without a quirk, he said, and that shattered my heart and dreams into tiny pieces. I looked down as tears began to well in my eyes. I see. I whispered. If you want to help people, there are plenty of other ways to do it. You could be police officers. They often face ridicule because they deal with villains, but that's also a noble occupation. All Might said as he walked away, leaving me alone. Before he left, he added, it's not bad to dream, but you also have to consider what's realistic, young man. And that was that. I didn't want to break the promise, and I made. But now that promise felt like it had a huge crack in it because of what All Might said. As I stood there, I heard an explosion, causing me to look up in the direction it came from. A villain? I wonder which hero will show up. I said as I began to run toward the door. But then I remembered what All Might had said, and it made me stop in my tracks. That really brought me down, and I knew it would haunt me for a long time. I would have to tell YN. I hated seeing her hurt. Time skipped to Tuan's shopping district. As I walked around, looking at my notebook, I heard another explosion to my right. Confused, I jogged over there, only to see the goo monster rampaging. What? I thought All Might had caught him. How could this wait? When he jumped and I grabbed him. I must have made him drop something from his pocket. This is my fault. I overheard someone saying that a kid had been captured by the goo villain. That made me wonder how that kid was holding up. I mean, I almost died within seconds of being suffocated by that thing. As I covered my mouth and looked closely at who the kid was, my body began to move on its own. Kaken. He's the kid in there, and even though I know he hates me, I have to save him. But how? As I ran closer, I heard the heroes yelling at me to stop and come back, but I didn't listen. I just kept running. I didn't know why. I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. You're toast, kid, the goo shouted as he prepared to strike me. I quickly took off my backpack and threw it at him while I continued running toward Kaken. Kaken! I yelled as I began to scratch at the goo to free him. What the heck? Why are you here? He yelled, trying to pry himself free. I don't know. My body won't stop moving. I shouted as I kept scratching. I didn't know why I was doing this. Maybe it was the look on his face. Kaken! I couldn't just stand there and watch you die. Even if you hate me, I cried, tears streaming down my face. Just as the goo was about to strike, All Might appeared. I really am pathetic, he said, staring at me in shock. All Might. But I stammered watching him. Even though I admonished you, I wasn't putting what I said into practice, he declared as he punched the goo away and took Kaken by the arm. Blood trickled from All Might's mouth. As he declared, pros are always risking their lives. I stared at him in awe. Darn you, All Might, the goo villain shouted as All Might unleashed a powerful Detroit smash, creating a whirlwind of force. I opened my eyes to find that the fire had vanished, along with the goo villain. Then there was silence as rain began to fall. All Might had changed the weather. I was about to speak when another explosion echoed nearby. I turned to see it was coming from Aldra Junior High. My heart raced as I sprinted toward it, calling out Tiffany's name. Please be okay, please be okay. I urged myself, quickening my pace. Your POV. I opened my eyes to see a white ceiling. Looking down, I found a green-haired boy sleeping on my lap. A small smile spread across my face as I gently ran my fingers through his soft hair. I felt him stir, signaling he was waking up. When he looked at me, he jumped up, tears streaming down his face as he hugged me tightly. Oh my gosh, you're okay? I was so worried you wouldn't wake up. Please, don't ever do that again, he sobbed, and soon, tears filled my own eyes. After our emotional moment, he told me I had been asleep for a week. He recounted what happened before he found me, and I regretted not going with him. He had met All Might and even gotten his autograph. Then he revealed his secret, leaving me in shock. Izuku asked me not to tell anyone, and I promised I wouldn't. So, what happened after you brought me to the hospital? I inquired. Well, he began, sharing the events that unfolded. He explained that after Kaken told him he didn't need saving and ran off, All Might appeared moments later. Izuku's flashback in Izuku's POV. After All Might transformed from his powerful form to his weaker state, he began to cough. Young boy, I came to thank you, he said, surprising Izuku, and also to discuss your earlier question. This piqued Izuku's interest. If you hadn't told me about your life, if you hadn't rushed into that fight, if you hadn't saved your best friend from that burning school, I would have been just a bystander watching from the crowd. So thank you, All Might said, slightly bowing his head. No. It was my fault the Goo villain was there in the first place. Izuku protested, raising his hand to stop All Might from bowing. I got in the way of your hard work. I wasted your energy. And not to mention, the time, he began, but All Might interrupted him. I'm not done. You told me you didn't have a quirk. When I saw this timid boy trying to save lives, it inspired me to act too. Izuku looked up at him in shock. Every hero has a story about how they became great. Most share one thing in common. Their bodies move before they have a chance to think, almost on their own. Tears welled in Izuku's eyes. In that moment, he recalled his mother's and Fn's mother's words. I'm sorry, Izuku. I wish things were different. I'm so sorry. Those were not the words he or Fn wanted to hear. And today, that's what happened to you, young man, All Might said as Izuku began to cry harder, slowly sinking to his knees. You never told me, back then. The words I wanted to hear. The words Fn needed to hear. Young man, you too can become a hero. And so can your friend. At that moment, the crack in the promise, Fn, and he made began to heal. That day was terrifying for me, but in the end, it was beautiful. I have no regrets about what happened. Dreams can become reality. I deem you worthy of my power. My quirk is yours to inherit. Flashback pause back to your POV. Wait, what did he say? I exclaimed in shock. Did I hear him correctly? Did All Might really say he was going to give Izuku his quirk? Would you let me finish? He said, giving me a playful glare. I smiled apologetically and nodded, wishing I had some popcorn. Flashback continue Izuku's POV. I deem you worthy of my power. My quirk is yours to inherit. My body froze completely. I slowly looked up at him and asked, what? Not believing what I was hearing. Wait, what do you mean inherit? Inherit what? I questioned as he burst into laughter. You should see your face right now, he chuckled, but then his laughter stopped. Don't worry, I'm not going to force this on you. He stepped closer, pointing a finger in the air. Listen well, young man. This is your choice. Do you want to accept my awesome power or not? Blood trickled from his mouth again. I was confused by his words. There are a couple of things you should know about my abilities. The tabloids call it superhuman strength and a boost, and I often dodge the question during interviews with a joke because the symbol of peace, All Might, had to be a natural-born hero. But I'm not. There's nothing natural about my ability. I wasn't born with this power. My quirk was passed on to me like a sacred torch. His revelation shocked me even more. Someone gave you this quirk? No way. I said, sweat trickling down my face. Yes way. And you're next. I can give you my abilities, he declared, looking down at me. Wait. Hold on, this is a lot to process. I stammered, getting to my feet. It's true that there's a lot of debate about what your quirk actually is. No one has ever figured it out. It's one of the world's greatest mysteries. People are constantly talking about it online. I continue to ramble about how it's impossible to pass down a quirk and so on. Sounds like you're overthinking this whole inheriting thing. All Might said, interrupting my thoughts. Stop nerding out, he exclaimed as I looked up at him in shock. Waff. I may hide a lot of things, but I don't lie. All Might declared as a blue light began to glow in the palms of both his hands. The power to transfer power. That is the quirk I inherit. I was crowned with one for all, he said, and I looked up at him in utter amazement. One for all. I murmured under my breath. Just one person improves the power, then hands it off to another person, which continues to grow as it is passed on. It is the crystallization of power that spins together the voices of those who need help with a courageous heart, he said as the blue light dimmed and he clenched his fist. But why would you choose to give me a gift like that? What if I can't live up to it? I asked him. I was on a long hunt for a worthy successor. And then, I watched you jump into action while the rest of us just stood by. You may just be a fan, but you tried to save that kid. And then you saved that other girl in that school right away, he said as I remembered rushing in to save her, seeing her unconscious on the ground with fire surrounding her but not touching her. I immediately grabbed her and took her out of there as the professionals finished the rest. You acted like a true hero, All Might said, smiling, which caused me to tear up again. God, I'm such a crybaby. Seriously. You gotta stop crying so much if you want my quirk, All Might said while laughing. He said so much to encourage me. He even told me the secrets behind his powers. Is this what I have been waiting for all these years? How can I turn this opportunity down? Okay, I'll do it, I said as I wiped my tears and stood bravely, staring at him with a smile. An immediate reply. That's what I thought you'd say, was the last thing he said before I told him I had to go. Flashback over your POV. Wow, was all I could say as tears streamed down my face. I swear what he said sounded like something out of a movie or anime. He gave me his phone number and told me that training would start as soon as you get better. He added his number to my phone. Wait, what? Why are you adding his phone number to my phone? Not that I'm complaining, I said while he handed me my phone. Right, I forgot to tell you. The doctors found something unusual in your blood. They took some samples to examine it. All Might came in yesterday and said that a strong power he had never felt before was radiating off of you. I told him you didn't have a quirk, so how could that be? He started thinking and then said that as soon as you wake up, he would like to speak with you. Also, don't worry about acting like you don't know his secret. He said it was okay for me to tell you, he said, smiling as he sent someone a text. I assumed he informed All Might that I had awakened. But then the realization hit me like a meteor. All Might wants to talk. To me? I stammered as I felt sweat trickle down my face. He was about to reply when the number one hero himself appeared in the room in his strong form. Good. That was fast, but he's here. In the flesh. I think I'm dreaming. Hello, young man. And hello, young lady. He greeted with his huge smile. I couldn't believe this was happening. All Might. Am I dreaming? I asked, struggling to catch my breath. No, you are not. But young lady, I came to talk to you about what happened last week. All Might said as he sat next to Izuku, who was surprisingly calm. But then I remembered that he had met All Might before I did. Lucky him. Well, I was walking out of my school with Izuku until I remembered I left my science notebook. So I went back to the school to get it. When I got to the science lab and got it, I was about to leave, but there was this strange-looking guy standing at the entrance of the class. I told him calmly, surprising myself because a few seconds ago I was freaking out. Was it that white-haired man who was lying on the ground in the lab you were in? He asked, and I nodded. So what happened after that? He encouraged me to continue. After the man came in, he locked the door. I told him that I only came to get my science notebook, and then I tried to leave, but he wouldn't let me. He restrained me with his quirk and then pulled out a medium-sized syringe filled with a red and gold substance. After he injected me with that, I blacked out. I don't remember what happened next. I just woke up to see fire surrounding me but not touching me and heard Izuku calling me before I blacked out again. I finished, looking down at my folded hands. Well, the special police force found a video of what happened in that classroom, and they said they would show it to you as soon as you were awake. They should be on their way right now, but it will take a few minutes. Now, the doctor took some of your blood to see why you have this immense power coming from you. Midoriya did tell me, and the doctors said that you were quirkless, and they are trying to figure out what happened to you and why you have this power now. There are scientists helping with this case as well. All Might said, looking thoughtful. The doctor then entered a moment later with a letter in his hands. Hello, miss, glad that you're awake now. Hello, All Might, and hello to you too, young man. The doctor greeted. I'm Dr. Hatsuki. Right here I have your blood DNA results that will tell you if you have a quirk or not, and it will explain why you have this power. He said as he passed it to me, and I took it with trembling hands. That day was the day I found out I was no longer quirkless. That day was also the day that All Might said he would help train me and Izuku. For some reason, I felt extremely excited but scared about this. You finally discovered that you have a quirk, and now you will be training with All Might and Izuku to become great heroes. Yesterday, I found out I had a quirk, all thanks to that eccentric man who injected me with a strange red and gold substance. After learning about my results, the special police showed me a video of what happened after I blacked out. It revealed me breaking free from the restraints the man had used to capture me. I was surrounded by flames mixed with lightning, battling the man who wielded various quirks. In the end, I managed to overcome him, but not without causing a fire in the classroom, after which I fainted. All Might was astonished, stating he had never witnessed anything like what was shown in the video. Izuku stared at me in disbelief, while I sat there, feeling my face grow pale. The fight had been intense, and the man had seemed incredibly strong, but I had emerged victorious. Today, I was being released from the hospital, but now All Might and the special police were keeping a close watch on me. All Might informed the police that he would train me and help me enroll in UA so I could receive better classes and training. I was excited yet nervous. What if I couldn't control my powers? What if I accidentally hurt someone? The thought was terrifying. Time skipped 2 days later, early morning location, Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. This is quite a comfortable fridge to sit on. All Might exclaimed as Izuku and I struggled to push 2 separate giant fridges, with All Might lounging on top of them. So far, we hadn't moved them an inch. I thought I could have moved them by now with my new quirk, but All Might had placed a silver bracelet on me that suppressed my powers until I built up some muscle. Izuku wouldn't unlock his quirk until he developed some strength either. We pushed one more time but ended up falling face first onto the ground. People move these every day, you know, and most of them don't even have super strength, All Might remarked. Well, yeah, but there's an extra 600 pounds with you on top. I replied, sitting up to face him. Actually, I've lost weight, so I'm down to 560 these days, he said. That was still heavy. Anyway, why are we dragging trash at the beach park? I asked, looking around at the beach that resembled a dump. Take a look at yourselves. Young man, you aren't worthy of my power. And you, young lady, aren't even worthy of having such great power within you. I should just take away your powers now, he declared, snapping pictures that made my head snap back. What he said stung. Even if he was right, I was trying my best. If I didn't try, All Might had permission to take away my powers with a potion that the doctors and scientists had created. They explained that the amount of power within me could be dangerous, which was why they wanted me to continue training with All Might and recommended I attend UA, the greatest superhero school of all time. They mentioned this during my second checkup to see if anything new had developed. They also said I might not be able to use all the quirks I possessed, which left me feeling a bit disappointed. But I thought you said I was worthy? I heard Izuku say, looking down in shame with tears in his eyes. Sometimes he could be such a crybaby. I'm referring to your weak bodies, All Might clarified as he walked toward us, still taking pictures of Izuku. Thankfully, he stopped taking pictures of me. My quirk, One for All, is a lot to handle. The combined physical abilities of everyone who has ever used it create a powerful force. An unprepared body cannot fully inherit it. If you try to use it without proper training, you could seriously injure yourself. Same goes for you, young lady. Your quirk is unlike anything anyone has seen before, and that's not a good thing. It could harm your body if you push your limits without sufficient training, which is why I'm training both of you this way. I have the authority to take away your powers, and it wouldn't be hard to remove Izuku's either. Therefore, you both need to try harder. I believe you will become amazing heroes when you grow up and gain full control of your powers. His last words eased my nerves a bit. While the thought of my body being at risk made me feel queasy, I could tell Izuku was scared too. Okay, so this whole trash thing is really some kind of hardcore workout, and you're our trainer, Izuku said, looking around the beach and then up at All Might. Yep. But there's another reason too, he said, making me slightly anxious about what he would say next. I did a little online research yesterday after my meeting with the scientists and doctors, and I discovered that part of this beach park's coast has been like this for many years. All Might punched one of the fridges lightly, leaving a small but visible dent. That's right, Izuku said, standing up. I got up too and dusted off the sand. Because of the ocean currents, anything that's dropped in the water ends up here. People take advantage of that when they are illegally dumping their trash. Now all the locals avoid this place, Izuku stated. Sometimes I wonder how all the smart things he says fit in his brain. Not even I can remember so many things. Heroes these days are all about showing off and capturing flashy villains, All Might said, placing one hand on the fridge I was pulling. As he crushed it, a huge gust of wind circled us. Originally, being a hero meant doing volunteer service. Even if people called that boring, you can't waver from those roots. Izuku and I paled as the fridge exploded. You'll both restore the coastline for this entire section of the beach. This is the first step on both of your paths toward being heroes. He looked at both of us, and I knew this wouldn't be an easy task, but I was determined that we would help each other as best we could. All this? But there's so much. That's impossible, Izuku exclaimed, looking around the beach again. I nodded in agreement. You two want to go to UA, right? All Might asked. I don't really have a choice, but yeah, I do want to go there, I replied, and Izuku nodded in agreement. You went there. So it must be the best school around, right? It's a long shot, but still. FN, and I are going to shoot for the moon. He said with a cute smile that made me blush a little, which I hid with my hair. You've got a lot of spirit, fanboy. But as I mentioned before, being a hero is not something you can do without a quirk, or in the Little Mrs. case, without learning how to control your quirk, especially one that can be dangerous if misused. It's sad, but that's reality. We all looked out at the shining ocean and the sunset. UA is the hardest hero course to get into. So that means that I have to prepare my body for your quirk really fast. And Lin needs to prepare her body for her quirks. Izuku interrupted, sounding determined. UA's exams are in 10 months, I added. Not to worry, kids. I've got you both covered. With the help of my handy, aim-to-pass, American Dream Plan. All Might declared, turning around with a bunch of papers that I had no idea where he got. It's a training plan to help you two finish cleaning up the beach. You'll follow this in every aspect of your life. He showed us the papers, and I had to admit he put a lot of effort into these, making them easy to understand. I felt less nervous than I had at the beginning of all this. Even our sleep is scheduled, Izuku said, sweat running down his face. If I'm being honest, this is going to be super hard, All Might said, standing behind us as we read through everything. I found it manageable, to be honest. Think you're both up to it? All Might asked, and we didn't hesitate to nod. Although Izuku sounded a bit nervous, he wore a determined expression. Yeah, sure I am. FN, and I have to work harder than anyone else to get in. So what choice do we have, right? I mean, we promised we would be the greatest heroes of all time, he said, and I smiled, remembering when we made that promise. All Might nodded, looking very proud of our answers. Just like that, we began 10 months of intense training. Time skipped 7 months later. It's been 7 months, and I haven't had much sleep or rest. It was all worth it, though, because now I'm stronger than before. Izuku has been talking to himself in class a lot, and we both looked exhausted, drawing curious glances from our classmates. It annoyed me, but I didn't let it get to me, and neither did Izuku. Today, Izuku and I were running while carrying heavy objects on our shoulders. All Might was in front of us in his weaker form, riding one of those black self-balancing scooters. I stopped when I heard a thud next to me. I looked over to see Izuku had fallen to the ground, so I let go of my heavy object and ran to him. "Izuku, are you okay?" I asked, placing a hand on his shoulder, but he didn't respond. All I could hear was his heavy breathing. "Hey kid, look alive now. You only have 3 months left. Are you really going to give up after all this work? Want to throw it all away and take it easy?" All Might asked, looking at Izuku. I felt bad for him, but All Might was right. We couldn't give up after all the effort we had put in these months. I felt Izuku gently push my hand away as he tried to get up, but I could tell he was really sore and tired, and honestly, so was I. "You're overworked. The aim to pass, American Dream Plan, was created with your bodies in mind to ensure you'd both make it in time for the entrance exam. You two haven't been sticking to the plan, have you?" he said, looking at us with disappointment. He was right. I had only been following some of the plan, ignoring the rest. I guessed Izuku had neglected most of it. "Overdoing it will have the opposite effect. Don't you guys want to get in?" he asked, and I looked down in shame. I have to work harder. "Or I won't stand a chance against the other applicants," Izuku weakly said, making me look at him in sympathy. I completely understood. I don't just want to get into UA. I want to excel. I want to be like you," Izuku said as he tried to get up again. "I don't want to break the promise, effin', and I made. I want to become the greatest hero in the world. So I'll keep on trying. Until I have what it takes to do that," he finished, tears streaming down his face. "Me too," I said, looking up at All Might, who had a shocked yet proud expression. He transformed into his strong form and grabbed Izuku and me from the back of our shirts. "That fighting spirit is what I admire about both of you. It serves you well. I understand your concerns. But now is not the time to rush things. Fear not. I can get you both back on track. Leave it to this old man to adjust your plan," he concluded. I smiled slightly as I felt my eyelids grow heavy. "Why, you're not an old man." "All Might," I said, and he chuckled. That was the last thing I heard before sleep took over. Time skip 3 months later, the morning of the exams, 6 a.m. It was the morning of the exams, and I was pumped. Izuku and I woke up extra early and finished cleaning the remaining trash. Now we were cheering in victory, thrilled that we completed our training. I glanced toward the parking lot and saw All Might in his weaker form, staring at the beach in astonishment before looking at us with an incredibly proud expression, which made me smirk while Izuku continued to shout in joy. "Holy cow! You guys even cleaned outside the area I mentioned. Seriously, there isn't a single piece of trash left on this beach," All Might exclaimed as he approached us, looking around in amazement. The idea to clean the outside area was mine. I thought it would be nice, and I was glad we did. Only a few minutes to spare. But you two exceeded my expectations. "Holy wow," he said, transforming into his powerful form in an instant. I jumped down from where I was standing, nearly losing my balance, but All Might caught me. I looked over at Izuku, who had fallen but was also caught by All Might. "Excellent work, you two. I feel like a proud father," he told us, making us smile shyly. "We finished everything." "All Might," Izuku said, his voice cracking. "We did it," I added, equally happy with our accomplishments. "Do you think we are ready now?" I asked him, hoping for a positive response. "Yes, you both did great. I must say, I'm impressed and beyond shocked at your progress. I knew you had it in you, but this is beyond my expectations," All Might said as he set Izuku down. I placed one of his arms around my shoulder so we could support each other as we stood in front of All Might. It didn't bother me that he was sweating profusely. I was sweating a lot too. "Look at this," All Might said, showing us a picture. It was one of Izuku and me lying on the floor, exhausted and looking like we had just come out of a tough battle. "It's the two of you 10 months ago, looking like a couple of weaklings," All Might remarked, a bit bluntly, but he was right. Compared to now, we were much stronger. "Izuku, there's still a long road ahead before you can inherit my full power, and FN, the same goes for you if you want to control all of your abilities safely. But aside from that, you both have made me very proud." You are both worthy of becoming heroes. All Might, do I deserve this? Are you sure? I heard Izuku ask, making me turn to him. He had a weak smile as he looked down. Haha. All Might responded, slightly confused. You put so much time and energy into helping us. How did we end up so lucky? Izuku finished, tears spilling from his eyes. I smiled at him, feeling my own tears welling up. It was your hard work that brought you here, not mine, All Might said, patting us both on the back. Now, it's time for the award ceremony, he declared, standing tall in front of us. Midoriya first. I let go of Izuku, who stepped forward to face All Might. All Might took out a strand of his golden hair and said, "This is something I was once told. Something you receive because you're lucky and something given because you are recognized are different in essence. Take that to heart, young man." He spoke seriously. This is power that you earned through your own effort. Izuku nodded in understanding and my smile widened. Also, did I mention that during all of this, Izuku had been shirtless? Let me tell you, his body right now is impressive. Eat this, All Might said, holding the golden strand of hair in front of Izuku. I burst into laughter at the expression on Izuku's face when All Might said that. But was All Might serious? Did Izuku really have to eat that hair to gain his powers? Or was All Might just teasing him? Come again? Izuku asked, clearly confused. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as you take in my DNA, All Might explained, scratching the back of his head. This isn't exactly how I imagined it. Izuku yelled, making me laugh again. It's not funny, effin'. Izuku protested, grabbing my shoulder and shaking me in an attempt to stop my laughter, but it only made me laugh harder. Come on. There's no time. You'll be late for the exam. All Might said, grabbing Izuku and urging him to eat the hair. A few minutes later, after that hilarious moment, All Might told me pretty much the same thing. Instead of giving me a hair strand to eat, thank goodness, he removed my bracelet. When he did, I felt an immense surge of power coursing through me. It felt strange yet exhilarating. How do you feel? Izuku asked with a soft smile, making me blush a little. I feel amazing. But amazing, I replied, returning his smile. Now, FN, you still need to be careful while using your powers. You can't push past your limits until you get more training at UA. For these past 10 months, you and Midoriya have been like my children to me. And I don't want to lose either of you, he said, causing me to tear up. I walked up to All Might and hugged him, whispering a soft thank you. And that was our 10 months of training with All Might. Now it's time for Izuku and me to pass that exam and get into U today. Your POV 8:40 AM the same day UA high school entrance exam location. Izuku and I hurried home to prepare for our day at UA. I took a quick shower, put on my uniform, and tied my hair up since it was quite warm outside. At 8:40 AM, Izuku and I stood in front of UA, watching as other students passed by, some stopping to admire the impressive building. I can't believe we're here, I said, smiling. Yeah, and we made it just in time too, he replied, walking alongside me. Are you okay, Izuku? I asked, noticing a strange expression on his face. Yeah, it's just, I didn't even get a chance to test out my new power, he said, worry evident in his eyes. Neither have I, but it will be okay. I'm sure everything will go smoothly, I assured him, and he nodded, looking a bit more at ease. I may have swallowed some hair, but I don't feel like anything great has happened to me yet. Izuku sighed, covering his mouth in disgust as we paused for a moment. I giggled at his expression. Just as I was about to speak, a voice I didn't want to hear interrupted us from behind. Stupid Deku, Bakugo said, and we turned to see his familiar scowl. I glared at him as he approached. Kaken, Izuku stammered. Get out of my way, you two, before I lose my temper, Bakugo warned, and Izuku began to panic. Morning. Let's both do our best, he managed to say, but he relaxed once Bakugo walked past us toward the school. I really can't stand that guy, I muttered, irritation clear on my face. FN. Your hand, Izuku said, looking down at my hand in surprise. Huh? I asked, glancing down to see my hand surrounded by a flickering red glow. What? Izuku thought. My hand is on fire, I exclaimed, waving my hand around as people stared at me in confusion. FN. Calm down, he said, placing his hands on my shoulders. I took a deep breath and realized the glow wasn't hurting me. Could this be one of my quirks? As I contemplated this, the glow in my hands faded away. After that strange moment, Izuku and I continued walking, but then he tripped over his own feet. I was about to catch him when, unexpectedly, he began to float. What was happening? I looked up to see a girl with short brown hair and big brown eyes. She was pretty. I stopped you with my quirk, she said, giggling at him. What was going on? I'm sorry I didn't ask first, but I figured you wouldn't mind me catching you, she added with a sweet voice that made me feel uneasy. I glanced at Izuku, who was staring at her with flushed cheeks. Great, now I was feeling a bit nauseous. I stepped closer to Izuku, catching her attention. Oh hi. Are you a friend of his? She asked me, and I nodded, suddenly feeling shy. Anyway, isn't this all nerve-wracking? She continued. I nodded while Izuku tried to speak but faltered. Well, I guess I'll see you guys inside. Bye, she said, walking away. Oh my god. I just talked to a girl, he whispered excitedly. First of all, you didn't actually talk to her, you just stood there looking silly, I told him, and he blushed, looking down at the ground. So cute. And secondly, you act like you've never talked to a girl before. What was that back there? I asked, my irritation returning. Well, you're different, okay? I've known you since we were kids, so it's easy to talk to you. But she's a girl I've never met before and she's pretty, he replied, crossing his arms. Oh, so I'm not pretty? I teased, but then realized I shouldn't have asked that when he looked surprised and then smirked. Are you jealous, FN? He asked, stepping closer. No, I'm not, okay? Just forget what I said. I stammered, walking away with a flushed face, hoping he wouldn't bring it up later. Time skip UA High School Hero Course Exam Orientation. Izuku and I sat down, listening to the voice hero known as Present Mike. I could tell Izuku was fanboying next to me while Bakugo sat beside him, telling him to be quiet but still watching Present Mike with interest. As stated in the application requirements, you will be conducting 10-minute mock urban battles after this. Present Mike announced. I wondered what the battles would be like. I hoped they wouldn't be too difficult, but this was an exam at a superhero school, so I expected it to be challenging. You can bring whatever you want with you. After the presentation, you'll head to your assigned battle centers, okay? Okay. Present Mike continued as I glanced at my exam ticket in front of me. I see. They're splitting us up so we can't work with any of our friends, Bakugo remarked surprisingly calmly as he looked over at Izuku's exam ticket. Yeah, you're right. Even though our examinee numbers are consecutive, we're assigned to different battle centers, Izuku noted, looking at Bakugo's ticket. Get your eyes off my card. I was really looking forward to crushing you both, especially you, Deku, Bakugo said, reverting to his usual attitude. Izuku flinched and then looked at my card. So you and I are separated, huh? He said, frowning. Izuku was in Battle Center B while I was in Battle Center C, and Bakugo was in Battle Center A. Yeah, I guess we are, I replied, feeling nervous. I had hoped Izuku and I could work together during the exams, but it seemed that wouldn't happen. Alright then. 3 different types of faux villains are stationed in each battle center. Present Mike announced, making me look up at the presentation as he showed us the villains we would have to face and how many points they were worth. He also mentioned that we can engage with other examinee students, so now I don't have to worry about anyone using their powers on me to try to get me to lose. I sighed as I continued to listen to Present Mike. Apparently, the paper we received indicated there are 4 villains, according to a student who made a speech about reporting that mistake. Present Mike then stated that the 4th villain isn't worth anything and that we should avoid it at all costs. He advised us that if we encounter the 4th villain, we should run away and get as far from it as possible. He also reassured us that there is only one 4th villain, so we shouldn't worry. Okay, so I guess some of you might be confused, right? Let me elaborate. For those who aren't confused, you may continue with the story. You are in Battle Center C. Izuku is in Battle Center B, and Bakugo is in Battle Center A. Now, regarding the villains in the exam, their points are based on how difficult they are. Villain number 1 is worth 1 point, and there are many of them. Villain number 2 is worth 2 points, and there are also many of them. Villain number 3 is worth 3 points, and again, there are several. Villain number 4 is worth 0 points, and there is only one. Now that you understand, you may continue with the story. If you have any other questions, please comment here, and I'll reply as soon as possible. I get it, this is kind of like a video game. I whispered to Izuku, who nodded in agreement. That's all I have for you today. I'll sign off with a little present, a sample of our school motto. The hero Napoleon Bonaparte once said, "A true hero is someone who overcomes life's misfortunes." Go beyond. Plus ultra. Present Mike concluded, raising his hands in the air with the words, "Plus ultra," behind him. I smiled, feeling more confident about this. Some parts seemed easy, but I could tell that others would be challenging, so I had to be ready. Now everyone, good luck out there, he said, and with that, we all headed out to change into our gym clothes. Mine was a black sweater with a white shirt underneath, black leggings, and my red high-top sneakers. Once I finished changing and fixing my hair, I joined my group but paused when I heard Izuku call my name. I just wanted to say good luck, and please be careful, he said, concern etched on his face. Same goes for you, and don't worry. I won't push my limits, I replied, giving him a hug and a quick kiss on the cheek before running off. Before I left, I caught a glimpse of his flushed face and the small smile on his lips. Time skip Battle Center C. Well, this is it. Time to put my 10 months of training with all might to the test. I stood in front of 2 enormous closed doors. On the other side was the battle center where I and the others would be fighting. It looked like a city to me. As I waited for the doors to open, I looked around at my competitors. They all appeared confident, and some even had gear. They looked so strong and cool compared to me. Minutes later, Present Mike shouted from a pillar where he stood, "On your marks. Get set. Run." As soon as he gave the signal, I ran as fast as I could. The villains immediately charged at us from different directions, and everyone quickly took them down. I realized that if I didn't find a robot to defeat and earn points, I would be in trouble. I quickly removed the bracelet All Might had told me to keep and tucked it into my pocket as I felt my power surge through my body. Flashback to this morning at the beach. "Effin, I want you to keep the bracelet," All Might said, handing me the silver accessory. "Why?" I asked, confused. "Because the power you possess is new and powerful. If you walk around with your powers exposed like that, everyone will sense it, including the villains. They will seek you out and try to take that power away. Neither I nor the special police will allow that to happen. So wear it when you are not battling or training. You can only take it off during battles and training. Understood?" I nodded. Flashback over. A few competitors paused their battles and stared at me as I ran. I smirked at their surprised expressions, amazed by the power radiating from me. Suddenly, I felt exhilarated as I spotted robots and began to take down as many as I could. So far, I had 45 points, continuing to defeat villains here and there using my super strength quirk combined with my lightning quirk. As I dashed around a corner, I stopped in my tracks at the sight before me. It was a gigantic robot, which I guessed was villain number 4. It was causing destruction, with debris falling from broken buildings and smoke billowing everywhere. Now I understood why it was worth 0 points. It could crush and injure anyone who hadn't had any real training yet. I was about to run away when I heard a scream. I looked closely to see a girl trapped under rubble. I then glanced up at the villain heading her way. While everyone else nearby fled from the threat, I debated whether to save the girl, but how? Everything felt like it was happening in slow motion. The only way to rescue her was to defeat the villain. As the girl screamed again, I made up my mind. I ran as fast as I could, thinking of one quirk that could take down this monster. And then it hit me. I could use one for all. If I had every quirk in the world, then I was certain I possessed All Might's quirk. I picked up speed, feeling a surge of energy in my legs that propelled me high into the air. As I recalled what All Might said about shouting that one word, I clenched my fist, which glowed gold with red lightning, and struck the giant robot while yelling, "Sinis." The robot shattered into countless pieces, crashing to the ground and sending debris and flames flying in every direction. All Might had told Izuku and me that there was no real reward in taking down that giant robot, but there was an opportunity, a chance to shine and show what we were truly capable of. I could feel everyone below staring at me, but I didn't care. This was my moment to shine, and they had just witnessed what I could do. As I plummeted toward the ground, I noticed that the hand I used to punch the robot was injured, along with one of my legs. How was I not feeling any pain right now? As I fell, I took a deep breath and unleashed a powerful gust of air, creating a massive tornado beneath me that slowed my descent and sent bystanders flying. Oops. When I landed, I immediately collapsed to the ground, and that was when the pain hit me. It was so intense that my vision blurred, and I could barely hear anything. I saw figures moving around my fellow exam participants, but I couldn't make out their words. As I slowly lost consciousness, I wondered if All Might had seen my actions. If Izuku was okay. If he had passed or not. And with that final thought, I blacked out. It's important to note that Izuku had done the same thing. We both used the same quirk, took down the fourth villain, and saved someone. It had been a week since the exams. I was at Izuku's house, having dinner with him and his mom. Izuku had been staring at a cooked fish with a strange smile since we started. "Izuku?" I said, but he didn't respond. "Snap out of it, Midoriya," I urged, feeling increasingly uneasy, and I could tell his mom felt the same. Suddenly, Izuku's eyes widened in shock as he stopped smiling and looked up at us, an apologetic expression on his face. I'm sorry, did you guys say something?" he asked. I sighed, concerned for him. After I woke up in the hospital, I found Izuku in the bed next to mine, but he was unconscious. When I asked the nurse what had happened, she explained everything. I was surprised to learn that he had experienced the same fate as me, except he had 0 points while I quickly asked the nurse to summon Present Mike. When he arrived, I requested to transfer some of my points to Izuku, but he informed me that was not possible. Since that day, I felt terrible. When Izuku finally woke up, he lacked his usual spark. He hadn't spoken to me or anyone else until now. "Why are you smiling at the fish? Should I be worried about that, honey?" his mother asked, her voice laced with concern. Sorry, no. I just spaced out for a minute," he replied, and after a moment he began to eat. Once dinner was over, Izuku sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. I approached him and watched as he closed his eyes and let out a sad sigh while I sat beside him. "I know. Waiting for the results is terrible," his mother said from behind us. "I guess," Izuku replied, looking down. "No matter what, I want you to know I'm proud of you, and I think you're really cool, sweetie," his mom said, trying to lift his spirits, but it didn't seem to help. "Sure," he muttered, falling silent again. "Oh, I'm going to check the mail, okay?" she said, putting on her slippers. Before she left, I quickly got up. "I'll join you, Mrs. Midoriya," I said as I walked away from Izuku, but not before saying goodbye and promising to see him later. He didn't respond, just looked at me and then backed down. As Mrs. Midoriya and I walked outside to get the mail, I mentioned that I would head home to check mine. She was about to say something but stopped when she noticed a letter addressed to her from you. It's from you, oh my gosh," I exclaimed as she hurried back inside, calling out for Izuku. I rushed home to check my mail, only to find my mom already there, staring at something with wide eyes. "It's from you, she exclaimed, looking at me with a huge smile. We both dashed inside and opened the letter. As I did, a metal object slipped out and projected All Might's image. "All Might? But this is from you, right?" I shouted in surprise. My mom shushed me as All Might began to speak. He talked about becoming a new faculty member at U.A, which surprised and thrilled me. He then mentioned my actions during the exams, which made me feel both happy and nervous. He expressed how proud he was of my efforts. He also spoke about Izuku and what I had done for him, which earned me 5 rescue points. I received 60 points for rescuing a girl, bringing my total to 65 rescue points. Apparently, rescue points were a part of the exams, but Present Mike had kept that a secret from us. I had 45 battle points, which placed me in third. That meant I passed the exams. I was going to my dream school. After the projection ended, my mom and I were in tears, hugging each other tightly. I then told her I was going to run to Izuku's house to celebrate because All Might had informed me that Izuku also passed and was going to UA. I burst through the door, which was already open, and dashed to his room, passing by his mom, who looked shocked. I opened the door to find Izuku standing there, tears streaming down his face. My smile widened even more as I jumped on him and cried harder. "Izuku, we passed. We're going to U.A." I exclaimed, wrapping my arms around him. He hugged me back as we both cried. Minutes later, my mom arrived at Izuku's house and began talking to Mrs. Midoriya after congratulating Izuku. Mrs. Midoriya also hugged me and congratulated both of us for making it. It was now April and it was my first day of high school at UA. I was headed to the door to get Izuku when my mother stopped me. "Please be careful, FN. And remember not to push your limits with your new powers. I can't bear the thought of losing you." Tears streamed down her face. Ever since the doctors and All Might explained my powers and the risks involved, she had become increasingly worried and protective. I felt like a ticking bomb that could go off at any moment if I wasn't careful. I sighed and hugged her, assuring her I would be all right. "Don't worry, Mom. All Might and Izuku will be there to help me if anything goes wrong," I said with a reassuring smile before opening the door. "FN, my mother called before I stepped out. I'm really proud of you," she said, her smile bright despite her tears. I smiled back, waved, and walked off to begin my journey. Izuku and I were now running through the halls of UA, trying to find our class, which thankfully we had together. Once we found Class 1A, the class we would be in for the next 4 years, we walked in, hoping not to be too late. As we entered, we were greeted with a chorus of shouting. A boy with dark blue hair was yelling at Bakugo to put his feet down from the desk. During their argument, I caught the dark-haired boy's name, Tenya Ida. Noticing that Izuku and I were at the door watching the commotion, everyone in the class began to turn their attention towards us, making me extremely anxious. I didn't like being the center of attention. "It's them," Tenya gasped, pausing his bickering with Bakugo, who also looked over at us in annoyance, realizing we would be sharing a class again. Everyone stared at us in awe, except for Bakugo, who looked like he wanted to explode with anger. "Morning," Izuku said shyly. I stood awkwardly beside him, not saying a word. "Good morning. I am from Semi-Private Academy. My name is," the blue-haired guy began, but I cut him off. "Tenya Ida. We heard," I said, smiling as he stopped in front of us. I couldn't let fear hold me back this time. We introduced ourselves and shook his hand. "Midoriya, you realize there was something more to the practical exams, didn't you?" Ida said. "I had no idea. I misjudged you." He bowed. "I hate to admit it, but you're better than me." Confused, I silently watched and listened. Sorry, I actually didn't realize anything, hee." Izuku said, sweat dropping as he awkwardly laughed. "Oh, that curly-haired one. You're the one who tripped," someone said from behind us. I turned to see the girl who saved Izuku from falling. Uraraka, right? Spacing out during their conversation, I was brought back when I heard a male voice speak from behind me. I tried to hold back a laugh when I saw a man with long black hair emerging from a yellow sleeping bag. Who is this guy? Why did he look familiar? "Go somewhere else if you want to play at being friends. This is a hero course," he said, getting up and unzipping himself from the sleeping bag as he stepped into the now quiet classroom. "Okay, it took 8 seconds before you were quiet. Time is limited. You kids need to be more rational." He looked at all of us, annoyance clear on his face. After that unexpected test Mr. Aizawa gave us, we all gathered to see our results. "Alright, time to give you your results. I ranked you all from best to worst. You should probably have an idea of where you stand already. I'll just pull up the whole list. It's not worth going over each individual score," Mr. Aizawa announced as he displayed the scores on his hologram. I was worried about who would be last. It felt unfair that the person in last place had to go home on our first day. As I looked at the hologram, I saw that I was in second place, just below someone named Momo Yaoyorozu. Below me was Shoto Todoroki. My heart sank when I saw who was last, Izuku Midoriya. I glanced over at him and saw his pale face. Izuku. I felt terrible. He had worked so hard to get here. This was so unfair. Just as I was about to approach Aizawa to voice my concerns, he spoke again. And I was lying, no one's going home. He said, turning off the hologram. That was just a rational deception to ensure you all gave it your all in the tests. Mr. Aizawa said with a slight smile. Are you serious? I yelled out along with everyone else. How could he play with our emotions like that? He startled me quite a bit. I took a moment to breathe deeply, and once I felt calmer, I glanced at Izuku, who looked like he was about to faint. I'm surprised the rest of you didn't catch that. Sorry, I probably should have mentioned it, a girl with black spiky hair said, laughing awkwardly. Yes. You should have. I thought as everyone glared at her, except for Izuku, who still looked pale and was trying to regain his composure. Well, that's it for today. Please pick up a syllabus in the classroom and review it before tomorrow morning, Mr. Aizawa announced as he walked away. I heard Izuku let out a sigh beside me. I walked over and gave him a reassuring pat on the back. Midoriya, Mr. Aizawa called out. We turned to see him approaching us. Take this and go see the nurse. Things will get tougher tomorrow when your actual training begins. As for you, Helen, I'll be keeping a close eye on you. I sense something different about you. Maybe I should have read all the students' information before class instead of taking a nap, he said, handing Izuku a pass to the nurse before walking off. Come on, I'll go to the nurse with you, I told Izuku as we headed to the nurse's office. Well, we managed to get through the first day mostly unscathed. Sort of, I said, wincing as I glanced at his injured finger. Still, it bothers me that I was in last place. I mean, there were so many things I struggled with. The only good score I got was on the ball throw. I feel like I'm starting at the bottom, he said, looking down in disappointment. But that's a good thing. I replied with a smile. He looked at me, puzzled. It's a good thing because when you reach the top, everyone will see how much you've grown from where you started. Even All Might and the other pro heroes who teach here will notice. I believe you can do it, without a doubt. We have 3 years here, so keep trying and don't give up. Because heroes never give up. I declared, raising my fist in determination. Izuku's eyes widened, but he smiled back at me and suddenly hugged me. Thanks. For everything. And for always supporting me and being here, he said, stepping back to look at me, causing me to blush slightly. We made a promise when we were kids. I don't intend to break it anytime soon, or ever for that matter. So I promise I won't give up, he whispered as we locked eyes. I returned his soft smile, noticing his cheeks were a bit flushed, which I found incredibly endearing. This is exactly why I had feelings for him. He's just so sweet and charming. Who wouldn't love someone like him? I felt my cheeks heat up even more when I realized his hands were still resting on my waist. Izuku? Could you let go now? I shyly asked, looking down. He glanced at his hands, confused, before quickly withdrawing them. Sorry. We should probably head to the nurse. My finger is starting to hurt more, he said, and I looked up to see him blushing even more. So adorable. When we arrived at the nurse's office, Recovery Girl gently kissed his finger, which startled him at first, but then he was amazed when his finger healed. Wow, thanks. That feels so much better. But I suddenly feel really tired. I think I need a nap, he said, which made me giggle a little. Well, my quirk heals you, but healing takes a lot of energy. It's just how the body works, she replied as she began typing on her computer. A few moments later, we separated to change out of our gym clothes and back into our regular uniforms. Ugh, I'm so tired I don't even want to walk home, Izuku complained as we exited the school. I giggled but then jumped when I felt a hand on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw it was just Ida. Hey there, Ida, Izuku greeted. Hey, how's the finger doing? Ida asked as he examined Izuku's hand. Oh, it's doing fine, thanks to Recovery Girl, Izuku replied, and with that, the three of us continued toward the school gates. Just before we stepped through the gates, Uraraka called out to us. Hey, wait up. You guys, she yelled as she ran toward us. Hey, Uraraka. Great job on the test. I told her as she reached us. Thanks. And you can just call me Ochako. We're friends now, so no need to be formal, she said, grabbing my hand and smiling brightly. Blushing, I nodded and smiled back. Maybe she isn't as bad as I thought. Anyway, are you guys heading to the station? Can I join? She asked, and we all nodded, welcoming her along. Oh, you're the Infinity Girl. Ida exclaimed. Yup, that's me. I'm Ochako Uraraka. You must be Tenya Ida, and you must be Deku, right? Midoriya? She asked. Ha! I burst out laughing when she called him Deku, a name Bakugo uses to tease him. Oh man, that was hilarious. Isn't that what Bakugo calls you? She asked, looking confused. Oh, my name's actually Izuku. That is what Kaken calls me to make fun of me, Izuku said, laughing awkwardly. Oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. But you know what? I like Deku. It could make a great hero name. Plus, I think it sounds kind of cute, she said cheerfully. She has a point there, I added, still smiling after that laugh. Deku it is. Izuku said suddenly, his face turning bright red. Just like that. You weren't saying it was an insult. Ida exclaimed, surprised, and Izuku began mumbling again, which made me laugh once more. Ochako looked confused, which only made me laugh harder. This is having more friends. Usually I only talk to Izuku, but this feels different. A good different. I like it. I survived my first day at UA and made new friends. What a day. Time skipped to the next day. I'm currently sitting at my desk in English class, trying not to doze off. Yes, we have regular classes here, apparently, but only in the mornings. My first class is English, followed by math, biology, and then history. After that, there are 4 more PRDS focused on how to be a hero and training. Alright, students. Which of these 4 sentences contains a mistake? Present Mike asked as he pointed to the 4 sentences he had written on the board. I forgot to mention that he's our English teacher. So boring. Hey everybody, look alive. Grammar rules. Present Mike yelled enthusiastically, making me groan as I let my head fall onto the desk, not really caring about the discomfort. So annoying. I love Present Mike and all, but it's morning and no one wants to hear loud noises. Your POV. I could hear Ida trying to communicate with Bakugo, but Bakugo kept shutting him out. Just shut up and defend the weapon. I have more important things to worry about, he told Ida as he got into a fighting stance again. Uraraka, go. Izuku yelled out as soon as Bakugo attacked. Izuku blocked his strike once more. False move. Think you can fight me alone? Bakugo shouted, but Izuku began to wrap some white tape around him. I remembered that if you wrap the tape around an opponent, it means they're out for the rest of the game. Izuku was a bit too slow to wrap the tape around Bakugo as he tried to punch him, but he dodged just in time. But his fanboy knowledge is really paying off. That move he was using. He picked it up from Mr. Aizawa when he tried to stop Bakugo from hitting Izuku during the test. Unfortunately, now that Bakugo knows about Izuku's strategy, he will probably try to switch things up, which means I have to be ready to step in at any moment. Bakugo is tough, but he's not an idiot. Just as Bakugo was about to attack, Izuku suddenly ran away, leaving both Bakugo and me confused. Realizing Bakugo was about to chase after him, I tripped him before he could even take a step. What the? He yelled as he fell forward. I ran behind Izuku, trying to contain my laughter. I was having way too much fun. Not paying attention to where I was going, I accidentally bumped into Izuku, causing my bracelet to fall off. Oh no, fun's over. What? YN? What are you doing in here? I thought you. I quickly covered his mouth to quiet him down. He was being too loud. Grabbing his hand, I explained everything to him as we continued to run from Bakugo, searching for a place to hide. I see. So you've been watching this whole time? He asked, and I nodded. I wanted to help you earlier when you were fighting Bakugo. But you handled it well without me, so I didn't want to get in your way, I told him, looking down as we paused to catch our breath. Thank why, he started, but I interrupted him. But if things go too far, I will step in between you two. Whether you like it or not, I said firmly. But Wyan, no. I interrupted again, tears welling in my eyes. I can't risk you getting hurt. I wouldn't be able to forgive myself if you got hurt while I just stood by and did nothing. I just can't. I care about you too much to let that happen. Even if this is a battle test, Bakugo is unpredictable. He would do anything to hurt you, Izuku, and I can't. I was cut short when I felt something soft and warm on my lips. I knew I had said the L word. But I didn't expect that by saying it, Izuku Midoriya, my best friend since childhood, would kiss me. I slowly closed my eyes and kissed him back as I felt his hand gently touch my cheeks. When we pulled away, I looked at him, blushing and unsure of what to say. Why did you? I couldn't finish my question. I could barely speak. Because I love you too, you idiot. You care about me way too much. So that's my thanks to you. But please, don't get in the way of the fight. You have to trust me, he said, holding my face in his warm hands. I hesitated but nodded, looking down afterward. Hey, I'll be okay. I promise, he said, kissing my forehead and helping me to my feet. If it makes you feel better, I'll let you help me a little, he added, smiling at me. I looked up and smiled at the idea, nodding in agreement. And also, after this, I need to talk to you about, well, the kiss, he said, blushing slightly, which made me blush too, but I nodded again nonetheless as we exchanged shy smiles. Izuku handed me back my bracelet, and I put it on, deactivating my quirk and becoming invisible again. Grabbing my hand, we began to walk until we came face to face with Bakugo. His right grenade hand glowed ominously, making me extremely nervous. Oh no. I'm all loaded up, he growled as he raised his right hand. What does that mean? Izuku asked, confused. Why aren't you using your fancy quirk on me? Don't tell me you're underestimating me, Deku. Get over here and show me what you're really made of. Bakugo yelled with a menacing smirk. Izuku gripped the white tape and glared at Bakugo as he let go of my hand. Don't do anything until I tell you to, got it? He whispered, not looking at me. Okay, I whispered, backing up a little. Kaken, I'm not scared of you anymore. Izuku declared bravely, but that seemed to make Bakugo angrier. His smirk widened, which was not a good sign. Since you're such a stalker by now, you should know how my quirk works, Bakugo said, pointing his right grenade hand toward Izuku, which sent alarm bells ringing in my head. Not good. My quirk lets me store nitroglycerin like sweat from the sweat glands on the palms of my hands and then makes it explode. Imagine what I could do if I had a lot of it, he growled as he slowly pulled on the silver ring on his grenade. That's right, these gauntlets aren't just for show. They've been building up my energy for one massive blast, he shouted, still gripping the silver hook. I had a feeling he was hiding something. All Might had to intervene now that he was aware of it. I activated the earpiece he had given me to hear his commands. Young Bakugo, don't do it. You'll hurt him. All Might warned as I noticed flames beginning to flicker from the grenade in Bakugo's right hand. Oh no. I sprinted toward Izuku, unsure if I could reach him in time. Everything felt like it was moving in slow motion, my heartbeat echoing in my ears as I pushed myself to run faster. A sudden sapphire blue glow appeared on my hand, but I barely registered it. He'll be fine as long as he dodges. Bakugo shouted, pulling out the hook. And then it happened. Bakugo Katsuki unleashed his enormous explosion. No! I cried out, positioning myself in front of Izuku as a giant blue shield manifested before us, protecting us from most of the blast. Ah! Izuku and I screamed as the explosion sent us flying backward, shattering my shield in the process. The force of the explosion was overwhelming. We barely escaped with our lives. As the smoke began to clear, I saw that the blast had created a gaping hole in the building's wall, shattering windows and causing the structure to tremble. Uraraka must have been struggling to deactivate that weapon. She needed to act fast before more damage was done. Midoriya, can you hear me? All Might's voice crackled through the earpiece, concern evident in his tone. I glanced around and saw Izuku beside me, sporting a few scratches and burn marks, but thankfully nothing serious. His costume was singed just like mine. I noticed my bracelet was broken, which meant I was now exposed to Bakugo. Is that even allowed? Izuku winced as he slowly got to his feet, helping me up. I don't think so. I coughed, smoke still lingering in the air. Well, looks like I joined the party. I knew something was off. I don't just fall flat on my face on purpose. I'm not a clumsy idiot like you. Also, that shield gave it away, but I guess it wasn't strong enough to protect you weaklings from my great explosion. Bakugo declared loudly as he advanced through the smoke, his left grenade arm glowing red, indicating it was charged and ready. Instinctively, my hand began to glow blue again as I cursed, a whirlwind of thoughts racing through my mind as I hoped Uraraka would hurry and end this. Now come on. Use your quirk on me, death. Unless you want your girlfriend to protect you again. Even if you give me everything you've got, neither of you will ever beat me. Bakugo taunted, a smirk on his face. I glanced at Izuku and saw the fear etched on his features. What's the matter? You look scared, death. You both dodged the attack, so you can still fight, can't you? Come and get me. It doesn't matter who, I'll take you both down. Bakugo continued, a wild look in his eyes. I had never seen him like this. Could someone like him really be a hero? We aren't safe even if we stay away from him. So what's your plan? I whispered to Izuku. I don't know, but I'll come up with something, he replied, activating his earpiece. Uraraka, come in. What's the situation? He asked, hoping for good news. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on our side. It's not good, she shouted through the earpiece. I cursed under my breath. Maybe I should have gone to help her. If I had, this whole situation might have been resolved by now. Are you ignoring me again? I'll get your attention. Bakugo yelled, raising his left hand this time. Bakugo, if you use that weapon again, I'll have to stop this fight. Your team will lose. All Might warned through the earpiece. Maybe this would make Bakugo reconsider. What? He shouted, clearly furious at All Might. To attack on such a large scale inside is inviting destruction to the stronghold you should be protecting. That's poor strategy, whether you're a hero or a villain. The penalty will be a massive loss of points, All Might threatened, making Bakugo even angrier. Go to the pillar by the windows. Over and out. Izuku quickly instructed Uraraka. Did he even hear what All Might was saying? Not that he needed to, but still. Fine then. We'll fight hand to hand. Bakugo growled, charging toward us with full force. We couldn't dodge this. Suddenly, I was pushed out of the way. I turned to see Bakugo behind Izuku, launching an explosion at his back and sending him flying forward. Izuku managed to stay on his feet, but then... Here it comes, nerd. The famous right hook you were writing about. Bakugo shouted as he swung at Izuku, causing him to cry out in pain. I had to do something and fast, but Izuku had told me not to interfere unless instructed. Don't you ever forget what you are. Bakugo yelled as I helplessly watched him grab Izuku's elbow and slam him to the ground. You're a weakling. Just like your good excuse for a girlfriend. Bakugo continued, tears streaming down my face. That was it. Izuku! I shouted, rising to my feet. I couldn't watch this any longer. I didn't understand why All Might hadn't intervened yet. I'm fine. Izuku called out, getting up and making me hesitate before I could go any further. He was lying. He was lying so I wouldn't jump into the fight. Watching Izuku run in the opposite direction, I tilted my head in confusion. What was he doing? Did he have a plan? Izuku stopped against the wall opposite me. Why won't you use your quirk against me? Still think you can stop me without it? How about your girlfriend? Can she use it too? Bakugo spat, glaring at me. You leave her out of this. This is between you and me. Izuku shouted, forcing Bakugo to face him. Again. Then answer me. Do you think you can stop me without your quirk? Bakugo demanded. That's not it. Izuku began, gritting his teeth as he glared at Bakugo. You've been hiding your true power for years. You and YN. What's the deal, huh? Did you two think you were better than me this entire time? Bakugo yelled, his anger palpable. I stood frozen, waiting to see how Izuku would respond, but his next words took me by surprise. That's what you think? You idiot. You've always been stronger, Kakin. I know you're better than me. Izuku shouted, tears welling in his eyes. Can't you see? That's why I want to beat you without the help of Wyan or anyone. Because you're amazing. He finished, clenching his fist as he activated One for All. You're even more of an idiot than I realized. Bakugo growled, and they both charged at each other simultaneously. This was spiraling out of control. Detroit. Izuku began as he sprinted forward. They were going to hurt each other. All Might, stop this. I yelled into the earpiece, but there was no response. I was about to intervene when I heard All Might's voice. Both of you Uraraka now. Izuku shouted, interrupting All Might. He punched upward with one hand while using the other to block Bakugo's explosive attack. Smash! Bakugo's eyes widened as a powerful gust of wind erupted from Izuku's punch, creating a massive hole above us and making me realize the gravity of the situation. He understood that the weapon, along with Uraraka and Ida, was above us, so he used One for All to give Uraraka a better chance to reach the weapon and use the debris to distract Ida. Izuku knew we couldn't win by battling Bakugo alone, so he entrusted the victory to Uraraka, who had a better shot. I closed my eyes, shielding my face from the fierce wind. Once everything calmed down, I opened my eyes to see a stunned Bakugo and an injured Izuku. This was your big plan from the very beginning, wasn't it? You were playing me this entire time, you Bisudi. Bakugo yelled, unable to believe he had been defeated. I wasn't going to use it, because I can't control it. Izuku said, struggling to speak through the pain. I slowly walked toward them, fresh tears streaming down my face. My body just can't handle the backlash of my power yet. Mr. Aizawa said I'd be useless. But this was all that I could think of doing. Without the help of FN. Izuku whispered, and Bakugo's eyes widened. Didn't you notice? She didn't fight at all this whole time. Because I told her not to for me. He finished, a painful smile on his face as tears began to flow down his cheeks. Izuku. I cried, stopping just a few inches away from him. That strategy. That was the only way I had any chance of winning. Izuku said, while Bakugo remained frozen in place, his eyes wide with confusion as he processed what had just happened. A buzz echoed through the building, signaling that time was up. Izuku and Uraraka had won just in time. I quickly moved behind Izuku, catching him as he released a relieved sigh and fell. Sitting on the ground, I hugged him gently as I sobbed. You did it, Izuku. You won. I whispered in his ear as he lost consciousness. The hero team wins. All Might announced through the earpiece, sounding both proud and worried. After the battle, Izuku was immediately taken to the nurse's office. I wanted to stay with him, but All Might told me to keep battling, as I would only be in the way and would just be waiting in the waiting room. Flashback. LN. I'm going to need you to stay here with the rest of the class. All Might told me as I watched the mini-robots carry Izuku away to the infirmary. But it's not really a surprise that I'm here anymore. Everyone knows. I sniffed, looking down as I wiped away my remaining tears. Yes, everyone does know now, but that doesn't mean you're going to stop. I'm going to give you another choice. You can be on the hero's side, the villain's side, or no one's side. He explained. What do I do if I'm on no one's side? I asked as he handed me a UA gym outfit to change into since my costume had gotten a bit ruined. You can watch. See how they battle, memorize their quirks and how they work. That way, when you go see young Midoriya, you can tell him everything and at the same time, it will serve as a lesson for your powers. But if you choose to watch, then you can't get involved in the battle, just keep that in mind. Now come. There's a bathroom in the monitor room you can use to change. All Might said, patting my shoulder while offering one of his famous smiles. Young Midoriya will be okay, I promise. You can see him after the battles are over. He reassured me, making me smile and nod. With that, We walked off together with Bakugo, who remained silent during our conversation. Flashback over. All Might gave us a new map to a different building called Battle Building B. The teams entering were Team B, consisting of Todoroki and Shoji as the heroes, and Team I, made up of Ijiro and Hagakure as the villains. I decided to watch this round and stayed in the monitor room. I watched as Shoji transformed one of his 6 arms into an ear. He then changed another arm into a mouth and began to speak to Todoroki, but I couldn't hear anything. Todoroki then spoke and walked toward the wall. I noticed Shoji step back outside, confused, until I saw Todoroki freeze the entire building. We were in the basement, and it was now freezing cold, but not completely frozen. Putting my now cold hands into my pockets, I glanced at another monitor, observing the villains, who were completely immobilized by the ice. I then saw Todoroki enter the room where the villains were and walked past both of them to touch the weapon, indicating that he and Shoji had won. He then used his heat to melt the ice surrounding the entire building, revealing that he has a second quirk. I sensed there was more to his quirk than just melting ice, but I decided not to ask him about it. Taking my hands out of my pockets, I let out a relieved sigh as the monitor room warmed up. So, Shoji's quirk is dupli arm, and Todoroki's quirk is half cold, half hot. Hagakure is permanently invisible, and Ijiro simply has a tail. The next team to compete was Team J, Siro and Kirishima as the villains, while the heroes were Team H, Tokoyami and Azui. I chose to watch again. I wasn't being lazy, I genuinely wanted to battle, but I was too worried about Izuku. I wanted to check on him instead of being here. I needed to know how he was doing and if he was okay. But I was doing this for him nonetheless. The battles continued, and I remained a spectator. At one point, All Might suggested I pick a team and join the fight, but I told him I didn't feel well enough to battle. With a sad smile, he let it slide and allowed me to watch the battles in peace. I should mention that when I put on my UA gym clothes, I also slipped on the anti-quirk bracelet All Might had given me, allowing me to rest from my powers for a while. Even when I wasn't using my powers, I could still feel their presence, and for some reason, I felt extremely tired and weak, as if my powers were draining my energy without me even using them. It was strange, but I hoped to get used to all this power eventually. Anyway, after the battles concluded, All Might let us go, and I found myself in the girls' locker room, changing into my regular uniform. The girls were quiet, as if they sensed my sadness and worry. Once I finished putting on my school shoes and getting ready, I rushed out as quickly as I could to the nurse's office. Quietly entering, I saw All Might already there, sitting in his weakened form with Recovery Girl and Izuku, who lay in bed with bandages wrapped around both arms. "How is Izuku doing?" I asked, not caring who answered. "He's doing fine. He just needs lots of rest," Recovery Girl replied, letting out a frustrated sigh. "After the 4 is finished, we'll have to wait until he heals properly on his own. My quirk can't heal all of his injuries at once, you know. Come on, All Might. I know you passed on your powers to this boy, but you can't spoil him," she said, sounding annoyed. "I'm trying not to play favorites. I wanted to consider his feelings, though. He needed to see that he was capable of winning the exercise. Oh, and please don't talk so loudly about One for All when anyone around could hear." All Might whispered sharply at her. Yeah, I know. Mr. Natural-born hero. Mr. Symbol of Peace," Recovery Girl replied sarcastically as she went to type something into her computer. They asked me to step out for a moment so they could discuss something. Moments later, All Might came out and said I could go back in. Izuku looked so weak. I didn't like seeing him in a hospital bed. What would happen if his powers continued to break his body like this? Recovery Girl couldn't help him forever. Time skip. I was in class, sitting at my desk with my head resting on my hands as I stared out the slightly opened window. The breeze hit me occasionally, making me feel relaxed while everyone else chatted about random topics. We only had 30 minutes until dismissal since we finished All Might's exercise early. Closing my eyes, I breathed in slowly, trying to calm myself down a bit more when I heard the door open. Curious about who it was, I lazily turned my head toward the door. When I saw who it was, I instantly stood up, regretting it as everything in the room began to spin a little. grabbing my head. I closed my eyes for a moment and opened them again to see everyone gathered around the very person who had occupied my thoughts all day, Izuku. Everyone complimented him on how awesome he was and how cool he looked during the battle. They all introduced themselves to him as well. As Ida began to argue with Tokoyami, I just stared at Izuku, who awkwardly laughed until we finally made eye contact. When he smiled softly at me, I felt my cheeks heat up as I looked down. I was getting dizzy again. What should I say? Did he even remember the kiss? Hey, FN. Izuku greeted me in a soft tone as he stood right in front of me, very close. Iche. How are you feeling? I asked, fiddling with my fingers and still not looking at him. I'm okay. Are you okay? He asked, gently placing a hand under my chin to lift my head so I could look at him. If it weren't for the nice breeze coming in through the window, I might have fainted from how warm it felt in the room. I'm fine. I just... Maybe he did forget? Is this about the kiss? He asked, smirking at me. Oh no, this is how I die. He didn't forget. What do I say? I struggled to speak as my face turned bright red. You're so cute, he chuckled, patting my head. We'll talk more about this later, but have you seen Kaken? I need to speak with him, he asked, glancing at Bakugo's empty desk. We tried to stop him from leaving, but he wouldn't listen. You just missed him. But you might catch up to him if you run, Uraraka said, pointing out the window. He dashed out, and I looked out just in time to see Bakugo leaving the school, and moments later, I saw Izuku. They were talking until Bakugo started to raise his voice. I decided to go outside, worried Bakugo might do something again, but as I walked out, I spotted All Might talking to Bakugo a few feet away from where Izuku was standing. I walked over to Izuku and asked him what had happened, and he told me he would explain later as he let out a sigh. Midoriya, what were you saying to Bakugo before I arrived so heroically? All Might asked, standing next to Izuku. Nothing special. Izuku exclaimed, trying to maintain his best normal expression. It was clear he was a terrible liar. I'm so curious. Why don't you share all the juicy details? All Might insisted playfully, and by now, I was already a giggling mess. Actually, kind of forgot? Izuku said, smiling nervously, and I couldn't hold back my laughter any longer. After school ended, Izuku and I successfully dodged All Might's questions by making up an excuse to leave. Moments later, we were walking home together in silence, my mind drifting back to the moment Izuku and I shared during the indoor battle test. My face heated up at the memory of him kissing me. He had said he loved me. Maybe I should ask him about that? Hey, Izuku? I said, looking down as I gathered my courage. Did you really mean everything you said? In the indoor battle test, I asked, glancing up to meet his green eyes as we stopped walking, now standing just 2 houses away from our homes. What part exactly? He asked, looking confused. The part where you said you loved me too. After you kissed me, I said, my voice trailing off as I felt my cheeks grow warm. He gave me a sweet smile, his eyes softening as he took my hands and pulled me closer. His face was only a few inches away from mine. Of course I meant it. You have no idea how long I've wanted to tell you that, he said, a hint of sadness in his eyes. Why didn't you? I asked, shocked and confused. I was afraid you wouldn't like me back because of how much of a loser I am. I was scared you'd reject me and friendzone me. I really like you a lot, and I didn't want to lose you as a friend or make our friendship awkward, so I just kept my mouth shut this whole time, he admitted, looking away. Seeing how cute he was being, I kissed his cheek, making him look at me, his cheeks turning a lovely shade of pink. I like you too, Izuku, I said softly, smiling. He smiled back and leaned in, kissing me for the second time. It was a sweet kiss, feeling both familiar and different from the first. Slowly pulling away, we gazed into each other's eyes. I couldn't help but giggle at how adorable he looked with his flushed face. Why are you giggling? He asked, his smile widening. Because you look cute when you blush, I replied, giggling again as his face turned even redder. Shut up and come back here, he said, rolling his eyes as he pulled me in for another kiss. After a few minutes, we pulled away, and he looked at me with so much affection that I felt like I was dreaming. We were on cloud 9. "So, do you want to be my girlfriend?" he asked, hope shining in his eyes. "I would love to," I said, beaming as he hugged me and showered my face with happy kisses, making me laugh. Walking home hand in hand, I hoped with all my heart, watching the sun go down, that we would stay happy like this forever. This morning, Izuku and I walked hand in hand to school. I was so happy that we were a couple now, and we weren't keeping it a secret either, as we both preferred it that way. When we arrived at school, reporters were everywhere, asking us and some other students how it felt to be taught by the symbol of peace himself, All Might. Thankfully, Izuku made up an excuse that we had to go to the nurse, and we successfully escaped, deciding to take a walk down the halls and chat about random things until class started. And now class had begun. Nice work on yesterday's combat, everyone. I reviewed the video feeds and went over each team's results, including this special surprise result, Mr. Aizawa said, looking at me at the end. "Oh great. My results were probably terrible." I hoped he wouldn't say anything about it. "Bakugo, you're talented, so don't sulk like a child about your loss, okay?" Mr. Aizawa said. "Tsuke." "Yeah, whatever," Bakugo replied, staring out the window. "Midoriya, I see the only way you won the match was by injuring your arm again and getting some help from the special surprise, which was FN. Work harder and don't give me that excuse about not having control over your quirk. That line is getting old. You can't keep breaking your body while training here. But your quirk will be very useful if you can get a handle on it. So show a little urgency, huh?" He finished, and I looked at Izuku to see him smiling with determination. "Right," he replied. "And last but not least, FN, Mr. Aizawa said, turning his attention to me. Great. I took off the effects on the video so I could see your every move, and I must say, it was quite entertaining to watch. It looked almost like a movie." He smirked at me. "Oh no, that means he saw me and Izuku share a moment. The way you tripped Bakugo to give Midoriya more time to escape was clever. Also, that blue giant shield you summoned when Bakugo almost got you and Midoriya was impressive, though you need to work on strengthening it so it lasts longer. Now, my favorite part of the whole video was when you and Midoriya were alone, and you too, don't." I shouted, standing up before he could finish. I realized everyone in the room was staring at me in shock and confusion, except for Izuku, who was blushing. My face began to turn red too, so I quietly sat back down. Mr. Aizawa chuckled and cleared his throat. "Anyway, let's get down to business. Our first, wait, what did Midoriya and who?" "You didn't finish," one of the students interrupted, cutting him off. "Oh please, don't tell them. You can ask the special surprise herself later during lunch," he said, smirking at me again as I glared back. "Thanks for saving my life, you silly teacher. As I was saying, our first task will decide your future," he announced, making us all stare at him in shock. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop somewhere in the school. I hoped it wasn't another quirk test. "You all need to pick a class representative," Mr. Aizawa revealed. "Oh thank goodness. It's just normal school stuff," I muttered under my breath while everyone let out a relieved sigh. And then chaos erupted. Everyone started shouting, pick me, and you're going to need me, I'm more responsible." In a regular classroom, being class rep would just mean extra work, but here in the hero course, it meant more. It was a chance to get noticed by agencies and professionals. I glanced over at Izuku, who was nervously raising his hand. I looked around the room. Everyone else was raising their hands too. I guess I'm the only one who doesn't want this. "Silence. Everyone, please," someone yelled, gaining everyone's confused attention. It was Ida. The class representative's duties are to lead others. That's not something just anyone can do. You must first earn the trust of every student in the classroom. Therefore, the most logical way to fill this position is democratically. "We will hold an election to choose our leader," Ida declared with all seriousness, but it was pretty obvious he wanted us to vote for him since he kept his hand raised throughout his speech. "Is this really the best idea?" Jair asked. "We've only known each other for a few days. How do we know who we can trust?" Tsuyu added. "Besides, everyone will just vote for themselves. Ijiro commented. Most people will. But that means whoever receives the most votes must be the most suitable person for this job. It's the best way, right, sensei? Ida insisted. Do what you want, just decide before my nap's over, Mr. Aizawa replied, then promptly fell asleep on the floor in his yellow sleeping bag. Moments passed, and the results were in. Ida wrote everyone's names, including mine, on the board, and everyone had to check who they thought should be class rep. To keep it private, Ida put up a curtain in front of the board. When he took down the curtain in the end, I looked over at my name and saw I had 3 votes. I glanced at Izuku's name. He also had 3 votes, meaning we were tied. How did I get 3 votes? We exclaimed simultaneously. Okay, you too. Who voted for them? Bakugo demanded, glaring at everyone. What? Did you honestly think anyone was going to vote for you? Shiro laughed, and everyone else joined in as Bakugo started to complain. Mr. Aizawa woke up, and now Midoriya and I stood in front of the class together with Yaoyorozu. All right, our class representatives are Midoriya and FN, since they tied, and our class deputy is Yaoyorozu, Mr. Aizawa announced. Actually, I don't want to be class rep, so Izuku can just have it to himself, I said, and everyone was shocked. What? Why? They all asked, except Bakugo and Todoroki, whom I learned was called half and half. It's just not my thing, I shrugged. Then you can be class princess. Ijiro suggested out of the blue. What? That's not even a thing, I replied, looking at him in confusion. Well, it is now. Hagakure chimed in. What does a class princess even do? I asked, crossing my arms over my chest. Well, you help out the rep and deputy with anything, and you can also direct us and plan events. Plus, you look like a princess and act like one, so why not be one for this class? Ijiro explained. You're also really kind and brave like one too. Remember in the entrance exams? You saved that girl from the giant robot villain. That's not something just anyone can do, Tsuyu added with a smile. Hey, who are you calling a newbie, Froggy? The only newbie here is you and everyone else except me. Bakugo yelled. Newsflash, Bakugo. You're a newbie too. So shut up and stop being rude and disrespectful to people, I shot back, making him look at me in shock. I then turned back to everyone else, who were smiling at me. See? You just defended me from Mr. Bully over there, Tsuyu said, proving her point. I guess it wouldn't be so bad to be class princess. Fine. I'll be your class princess, I said, rolling my eyes while everyone cheered. Geez. I love my class. Your POV. I was sitting in the lunchroom, enjoying my meal with Ida, Uraraka, and Izuku. Ugh, it's always so crowded in here, Uraraka remarked, munching on her rice. That's because everyone in the hero course, support course, and management course all share the same cafeteria, Ida explained, and I nodded in understanding. This rice is so good, Uraraka said, giggling afterward. I glanced over at Izuku, noticing he hadn't touched his food. You okay, Izuku? I asked, nudging him gently. I'm just worried about the class rep thing. I don't think I'm qualified, he admitted, catching Ida and Uraraka's attention. Sure you are, Uraraka encouraged. You'll be great, Ida added, looking down at his food. I could tell he was disappointed about not being chosen. He had wanted that position just as much as anyone else in the classroom. Your courage and quick thinking under stress make you a worthy leader. Not to mention the strength you demonstrated. Those are the reasons I voted for you, Ida said, looking up at Izuku before returning to his curry. You were one of the 3? Izuku asked in disbelief. Didn't you want to be rep really badly though? I mean, you do look the part because of the glasses, Uraraka teased. I realized I wasn't the only one who noticed Ida's desire for the position. That's not exactly how we should be choosing our rep, I said, giggling at her silliness. She shrugged and continued eating with a big smile on her face. How does she eat so much and maintain such a good figure? Wanting to do it and being suited for it are different issues. Observing the Ida agency has taught me that much, Ida concluded. Agency? Uraraka, Izuku, and I asked in unison. Hold on, what does your family do? I inquired. Oh, it's nothing, Ida replied nervously, You know, I've been wondering something about you. Admit it, Ida, you're incredibly wealthy. Uraraka exclaimed, and I stifled a laugh as I noticed a bit of rice stuck on her chin. I was afraid people would treat me differently if they knew about my family, he said, looking away. He then began to explain about his family, and I had to admit he was quite fortunate. One of his brothers is a pro hero, and I knew about him because of Izuku. Hey, FN. Someone called, and I turned to see almost my entire class approaching us, except for Bakugo, half and half, and that bird guy whose name I couldn't remember. So, what happened between you and Midoriya when you were alone during the battle test, Ashido asked with a smirk. Oh no. I had forgotten Mr. Aizawa told them to ask me during lunch. I glanced at Izuku, who was bright red and stuffing his mouth with food. Thanks for the help, Izuku. And nothing happened. W just talked, I said, looking down at my empty plate. Just talked? Ijiro pressed. My face was turning as red as a tomato. I sighed, about to tell them the truth when an alarm blared. What's happening? Uraraka asked. Warning. Level 3 security breach. All students please evacuate the building in an orderly fashion. A woman's voice announced over the intercom. Wait, what's a level 3 security breach? I asked. It means someone has managed to get past the school's barriers. This hasn't happened in my 3 years here. We should get going, a random guy replied, and we all jumped up and ran. Once we reached the hall, there was a massive crowd, and everyone was pushing against each other. It was pure chaos. I was pressed against the window alongside Ida, Uraraka, and Izuku. The rest of the class seemed to have vanished, probably stuck at the back. Oh, this is a total mob, Uraraka yelled. Everyone was quick to react. As expected from UA students. Ida said, sure, but they're also causing a huge panic. Izuku shouted, who in the world could have trespassed? I wondered, peering out the window to see reporters gathered in front of the school's red and gold doors, which were closed. I spotted Mr. Aizawa and Present Mike standing in front of them. I was afraid there was some kind of attack on the school, but there's no need to worry. Ida tried to calm everyone, but he got pushed against the window. Where are the teachers? Why aren't they taking control? I exclaimed in frustration. Then I had an idea as I spotted the exit. Ida, Uraraka, I have a plan to stop this. I called out to them, realizing I had no idea where Izuku had gone. Uraraka, touch Ida's hand and make him float above everyone else. Once Ida is up, use your speed to get to the front and get everyone's attention, I instructed, and they nodded in understanding. Alright, I know what to say once I get there. Thanks for the idea, Ida said, and I smiled and nodded. Ida managed to touch Uraraka, and he began to float. I watched as he sped to the front, catching people's attention. He hit the wall and stopped on top of the exit sign, grabbing the pole above him for support. Listen up. Everything is okay. Ida shouted with authority. He had everyone's attention now. I knew this plan would work. It's just the media outside. There is absolutely nothing to worry about. Everything's fine. We're UA students. We need to remain calm and prove that we're the best of the best, he concluded. I heard everyone let out a relieved sigh, and then the sound of police sirens filled the air. Little did Ida know, this was the moment he proved to everyone in class who the real class rep should be. It should have been him all along, not me or Izuku. Time skip. After everyone settled down, we returned to class. I spoke to Izuku and some classmates about letting Ida take the position of class rep, and they agreed. We were all sitting in class except for Izuku and Yaoyorozu. It's time, class rep, let's begin, she said to him. I hadn't told her about Izuku giving his position to Ida yet, so she was unaware. So we need to figure out who the other class officers will be, Izuku said nervously, but then he looked down, appearing more serious. But first, there's something I want to say, he announced, making Yaoyorozu and some classmates look confused. I've thought a lot about this, and I think that Tenya Ida should be our class rep, he declared, making me and those who knew the plan smile. The rest of the class looked shocked, and we turned to Ida, who wore a similar expression. He was able to capture everyone's attention and get us in line. So I believe he should be the one leading our class from now on, Izuku said with an adorable smile. Yeah, you know what? If Midoriya vouches for him, I'm on board. Plus, he really stepped up and took charge, right? Ijiro commented. Yeah. The class agreed in unison. This is a waste of time, Mr. Aizawa said from the corner of the room, still wrapped in his sleeping bag. It seemed like he practically lived there. I don't care who the class representative is, just hurry up, he added before dozing off again. Ida stood up and spoke earnestly. If Midoriya is nominating me for this role, then I humbly accept. I pledge to fulfill the duties of class representative to the best of my abilities. His voice was filled with determination. But I couldn't have done this without our princess. The speech was my doing, but the rest was her idea. So I thank you, and I'm thrilled to be working by your side. He smiled at me. Please don't call me your highness. I replied, feeling my cheeks heat up. Yeah, it was also her idea to make you class rep too. She shared her plan with a few of us before class started, Izuku added. All hail the class princess! Ida exclaimed, prompting another round of cheers from the class. I blushed even more and laughed nervously. This class really was something else. But little did we know that challenges awaited us. It wasn't the media that had broken through the gates, that was the work of a villain. After the class cheered for me, Ida and Yaoyorozu selected the class officers. Aizawa then woke up and began explaining the training we would be undertaking. Today's training will be a bit different. You'll have 3 instructors. Me, All Might, and another faculty member will be monitoring you, he said. Wow, 3 pros? Was that because of the recent break-in? Sir? What kind of training is this? Shiro asked, raising his hand. Rescue training. You'll be dealing with natural disasters, shipwrecks, and similar scenarios, Aizawa explained, and excitement buzzed through the room. This was a great opportunity to utilize our different powers, but I needed to be careful not to overexert myself. The class erupted in chatter about how thrilling it would be to engage in real hero work and showcase their abilities. Guys, I'm not finished explaining yet, Aizawa interrupted, silencing the room. What you wear for this exercise is up to you. I know you're excited about your costumes. He pressed a button on a controller, and our costumes appeared. Luckily, mine had been fixed, so I would be wearing it today. But keep in mind that you haven't fully adjusted to them yet, and they might limit your abilities. This special training will take place at an off-site facility on campus, so we will be taking a bus to get there. That's all. Start getting ready. With that, we all stood up. Hey, Izuku. Will you be wearing your costume? I asked as I retrieved mine. No, it hasn't been repaired yet. But I see yours is ready, he replied, and I nodded. I walked over to Uraraka, and we headed to the girls' changing room together. Time skip. We stood outside UA, waiting for everyone else. Hey Deku, why are you in your PE clothes? Where's your costume? Uraraka asked as we approached Izuku. You saw it after the combat training. It was pretty damaged. I'm still waiting for the support company to fix it, he explained. Alright, come on. Let's start lining up, I told them, and as soon as I said that, Ida blew his whistle. Gather around, Class 1A. Use your student numbers to form 2 neat lines so we can board the bus efficiently, he announced, causing Izuku and Uraraka to sweat drop. Ida is really taking charge as our class representative, huh? Izuku remarked. Yep. Come on, I said, and we all boarded the bus. Once we were on our way to the training location, Ida complained. The bus's open layout ruined my boarding strategy. Ida, you really need to chill, Ashido said, patting his back. If we're pointing out the obvious, then there's something I want to say about you, Tsuyu said, pointing at Izuku. About me? What is it, Azui? He asked. I told you to call me Tsuyu, she replied. Oh, right. Oops, Izuku said, scratching the back of his head. Anyway, that power of yours. Isn't it a lot like All Might's? She said, and Izuku and I froze. What really? You think so? I never really thought about that. I guess it is, though I mean. Izuku started mumbling random thoughts. Yeah, but All Might doesn't hurt himself when using his quirk. That makes a huge difference, I pointed out, and Izuku paused, letting out a relieved sigh. Thanks, he said quietly, just loud enough for me to hear. I smiled back at him. Still, I bet it's cool to have a similar quirk. You can do a lot of flashy things with it. My hardening quirk is super strong and can take down villains during a fight, but it doesn't look impressive at all, Ichiro said, demonstrating his quirk. Oh no way, I think it's really awesome looking. You're definitely pro-material with a quirk like that, Izuku said, his bright smile lighting up his face. When it comes to quirks, he's always so interested, and his eyes shine brighter than usual. It's cute. You really think so? It seems like it would be easier to be a pro hero if I had something flashier, Ichiro replied. My naval lasers are pro-level in both flashiness and strength, Aoyama chimed in. But it's lame if it gives you a stomachache, sweetie, Ashido teased, making Aoyama sulk. Well, if any of our classmates have pro-worthy quirks, it would be FN, Bakugo, and Todoroki, Ichiro said. Oh yeah, that's another reason Fin was chosen to be class princess. She has all of the quirks in the world, so basically you're like the quirk queen or something, Suyu said. I never thought about it like that, I replied, smiling at her. And also, Bakugo is always angry, so he will never be that popular, Suyu added, which made Bakugo fume and Izuku stare at her in shock. What did you say? I'll take you down, you stupid frog. Bakugo shouted, his temper flaring. I felt a surge of anger and wished I could just reach over and give him a light smack. But wait, again. I focused on my arm, imagining it stretching. To my amazement, it worked. I extended my arm toward Bakugo and gave him a playful tap on the head, causing Izuku to look at me in awe. Don't talk like that to her, Yuji. I yelled at him. See? Bakugo will never be popular, Suyu said. You know, Bakugo, we just met you, and it's kind of impressive that we already know your personality is a mix of flames and trash, Kaminari added, making Bakugo even angrier and me laugh. You will regret the day you applied to this school, you loser. Bakugo shouted, his temper boiling over. I was about to reach out again when Aizawa spoke up. All right, everyone quiet down. We're here. Stop messing around, he announced, making me look out the window at the enormous dome. Once we arrived, we all got off the bus. I stretched, relieved to be out of the cramped space. As we approached the dome, I spotted someone standing there. Oh my gosh, it's the Space Hero 13. He's so amazing. Hello everyone. I've been waiting for you, he said. Oh, 13 is one of my favorite heroes. Uraraka exclaimed, fangirling along with the rest of us. I can't wait to show you what's inside. 13 said. This is going to be awesome, we all chorused. We walked inside, our eyes wide with wonder. There were different stations representing various natural disasters, and it looked stunning. Wow, it looks like some kind of amusement park. I exclaimed, and everyone nodded in agreement. A shipwreck, a landslide, a fire, a windstorm, etc. I created this training facility to prepare you for different types of disasters, 13 explained. I call it the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ for short. I thought to myself, just like Universal Studios Japan or USJ for short, and I could tell from the looks on everyone's faces that they were thinking the same thing. Hey, shouldn't All Might be here already? Let me guess, he booked an interview instead, Aizawa said, sounding frustrated. Actually, it's something else, 13 replied quietly, but my heightened senses picked it up. Apparently, he did too much hero work on the way to school this morning and used up all his power. He's resting in the teacher's lounge, he said, and I sighed. All Might really needs to take it easy. He doesn't realize he isn't the only pro-hero around. I guess that's what happens when you're the symbol of peace, huh? That man is the height of irresponsibility, but we should be fine with just us two, Aizawa said. Anyway, time is ticking. We should get started. Aizawa leaned against a nearby wall. Excellent. Before we begin, let me just say one thing. Maybe two things. Possibly three. 5. 13 said, struggling to find his words. We get it. The whole class chimed in unison. We've been doing that a lot lately. It's strange. Listen carefully. I'm sure you're all aware that I have a powerful quirk. It's called Black Hole. I can use it to absorb anything and turn it into dust, 13 explained. Yeah. You've used black hole to save many people from all kinds of disasters, haven't you? Izuku asked. True, but my quirk can very easily be used to cause harm. Some of you also have powers that can be dangerous, 13 said, making us all gasp. Which reminds me, All Might informed me that there's a student in this class who possesses every quirk in the world. Please raise your hand if you're here. I raised my hand. What's your name, young lady? 13 asked. It's FN, LN, I replied nervously. Well, FN, I informed All Might that at some point, I would be glad to teach you this quirk. It will be challenging, but with patience and practice, I know you can master it, along with the rest of your quirks, 13 said, and I had to suppress a scream of excitement. Right. I said, determination on my face. In our superhuman society, personal quirks have been certified and regulated, so that doesn't seem to be a problem at first glance. However, please don't forget that there are many quirks that can easily cause harm with one wrong step. With Aizawa's physical fitness test, you discovered the possibility of your own hidden powers, and with All Might's combat training, I think you experienced the danger of using those powers against others. This class is a fresh start. You will learn how to use your quirks to save lives. You do not have powers to harm others. I hope you leave here understanding that you have powers to help others, 13 concluded his speech. He's so cool. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for listening, he said, and we all cheered. Right. Now that that's over, Aizawa was about to say something when suddenly the lights went out. I looked behind 13 to see the fountain turning off and on, and then a dark swirl appeared out of nowhere. Mr. Aizawa, 13, look. I said, pointing at the fountain. Everyone watched as the dark swirl transformed into a strange shadow with yellow eyes. A man with pale skin and numerous hands all over his body emerged from the shadow, accompanied by several villains. Oh my gosh. I said, fear gripping me. Stay together and don't move. Aizawa instructed as he and 13 positioned themselves in front of us. Fuck, dang it. All Might, please hurry and recover. Watched as Aizawa put on his golden glasses, indicating that this was no longer a training exercise. This is real. Those are villains, Aizawa said, making us all gasp, except for me. We all thought this would be a fun training day. But boy were we wrong. To be continued. Your POV. We stood frozen as villains emerged from the shadows, one by one. Fear gripped me, and I could see Izuku was equally shaken. Izuku, I said, taking his hand. Don't worry. 13 and Aizawa are professionals. They can handle this. I squeezed his hand reassuringly. But look at how many there are. Aizawa and 13 are only two heroes. They can't do this alone. Izuku exclaimed, panic rising in his voice. I stood there, lost in thought, unsure of what to do. So you scumbags use the press as a cover to sneak onto campus, huh? Aizawa asked, taking a fighting stance. The villains began to advance toward us. How did so many villains get into UA? Ijiro asked, concern evident in his voice. Yeah, 13, why aren't the alarms going off? I questioned, confusion washing over me. Great question. I'm not sure, 13 replied. Is the entire campus under attack, or is this their only target? Todoroki asked. Either way, if the alarm sensors aren't being triggered, then one of these villains must be masking their presence here. He concluded. I get it. They carefully chose this isolated facility as an entry point while a class was in session. I said, and everyone nodded in understanding. They're foolish for trespassing here, but they thought this through. Whatever their plan is, they must have a concrete objective in mind. But what is it? Todoroki said as we watched the villains approach us, fear gripping our hearts. 13, get them out of here and alert the main campus. If they have the ability to block our sensors, they might be jamming our regular communications too. Kaminari, try using your quirk to contact the school, Aizawa ordered. Yes, sir, Kaminari replied. What are you going to do? You can't fight them alone. There are too many. At least let me help. I pleaded, releasing Izuku's hand. No. I can handle this on my own. Stay back and don't use your powers. Remember, we can't let them know about you. Aizawa insisted firmly. But even if you can nullify their quirks, your fighting style isn't suited for this. Your powers work best in stealth, one-on-one fights. That's not going to help against a group. You have to let me fight with you. I urged again. I said no, and that's final. Plus, you can't be a pro if you only have one trick, Aizawa smirked, making my eyes widen. He can do more than I thought? I'll leave it to you, 13. Aizawa shouted before charging into battle. I watched in awe as he fought off the villains with incredible skill. I had never seen anything like it. Come on, YN, we have to go. Ida said, grabbing my wrist and pulling me toward the exit. We were running when suddenly a black hole appeared on the floor, halting us in our tracks. It was the shadow villain. It's a pleasure to meet you all. We are the League of Villains. I know it's impolite, but we decided to invite ourselves into this haven of justice to say hello, the shadow villain said, his voice dripping with malice. We stared at him in fear, wondering what 13 was planning. And besides, isn't this a fitting place for All Might, the symbol of peace, to take his last breath? He taunted, causing me to flinch. I felt Izuku tense beside me. I believe he was supposed to be here today, and yet I see no sign of him. There must have been some change in plans we couldn't foresee. Oh well, in the end, I suppose it doesn't matter. I still have a role to play, he chuckled. Just then, 13 prepared to use their quirk when Ijiro and Bakugo charged in. What were they thinking? Bakugo unleashed an explosion, filling the area with smoke, obscuring our vision. Did you think we would just stand around and let you tear this place apart? Ijiro shouted as the smoke began to clear. You really do live up to your school's reputation, but you should be more careful, children, otherwise, someone might get hurt. The shadow villain replied, reappearing. I noticed something metallic around his neck. Phew! Get out of the way right now. 13 yelled. My job is to scatter you all and make you suffer. The shadow villain growled, his shadows swirling around us. What the? I exclaimed, moving closer to Izuku. Complete darkness enveloped us until I felt a rush of wind against my face. I opened my eyes to find Izuku and me falling into water. What the heck? I shouted as we landed in the water. The shadow villain must have a warping quirk or something. What's important, though, is that they came here to target All Might. It's a good thing he's not here right now, but we still need him. I began to swim upward when I noticed something swimming toward me. At first, I thought it was Izuku, but as it got closer, I realized it was a villain resembling a shark. First catch of the day. Nothing personal, pretty lady, but you have to go, the villain laughed as it approached. Oh no, what do I do? I was about to use my air quirk to blow him away when Tsuyu appeared out of nowhere. Thank goodness. Hey there, class princess, she said, wrapping her tongue around me and swimming us up. We leaped out of the water and landed on a boat. I looked up to see Izuku and Mineta. For a frog, you have some impressive flotation skills, Tsu, Mineta said, making Tsuyu blush and knock him out. You saved my life, Azui. Thank you. Izuku said gratefully. I told you to call me Tsu or Tsu, she replied, making me laugh. This is turning out to be a terrible day of class, she said, looking exhausted. Yeah, I replied, staring down at the water. I can't stop thinking about what that shadow villain said. I recalled his words about All Might. Yeah, me too, Izuku sighed, standing beside me. They knew our entire schedule and who would be here. They must have accessed the school files while we were stuck in the cafeteria. The teachers were all busy trying to get the media off school grounds, Izuku explained. That means they have been waiting for the perfect time to attack, just like Todoroki said, I said, looking at him. But hold on a second. It's not like this guy can really take down All Might. Once he shows up, he'll take care of these villains. Mineta said, trying to ease our worries. Think about it though. If the villains have spent so much time planning this attack, they probably have a way to take him out, Tsuyu said, making Izuku and me exchange worried glances. And didn't you hear what that smoke guy said? Maybe we should be more concerned about not getting captured. Otherwise, we might not survive long enough to see All Might again. And even if he does show up, who knows if he'll make it out safely. Tsuyu was right. And no way the pros are going to save us, right? Mineta exclaimed, panicking. I was about to respond when we heard something in the water. We all turned to see 16 villains approaching. You villains! I'll enjoy taking you down, the shark-like one who had tried to attack me earlier shouted. I wished I could control all my quirks. But even so, I had limits I couldn't surpass. If they can take him down, then we need to stop whatever these bad guys are planning, Izuku said, determination on his face. I could tell he was thinking things through. We have to work together and keep All Might safe. No one at Udata knows what's happening. This is up to us now. We all nodded, except for Mineta, who still looked hesitant, fear evident on his face. So you're saying we should fight? Are you crazy? These guys might be able to take down All Might, and you think we can handle them? Did you hit your head when we got warped here? Mineta rambled, listing all the reasons why this was a bad idea. Think about it. Those villains clearly have an advantage in the water, and I assume that's where we'll be fighting, Izuku said, deep in thought. Are you even listening? Mineta yelled, almost in tears. If that's the case, they must have known what was inside the USJ before they warped in, I said, ignoring Mineta's panic cries. Yeah, but for a group that planned so carefully, there's one thing that really stands out to me. They sent you here, Sue. Izuku corrected himself, making Tsuyu and me giggle. Blood. All Might. No. Stop. What was that? I wondered as I walked out of the water with Tsu, Mineta, and Izuku. That vision. Was that one of my quirks at work? Hey, Wyan, you okay? You look a bit pale, Izuku asked, concern in his voice. I'm fine, it's just... I had this strange vision just now. There was blood everywhere, and then I saw All Might hurt, and I heard someone yell, no. Stop. And then... That's when my vision ended, I said, trying to shake the water out of my hair. Maybe one of your quirks did that. A premonition, perhaps? Tsuyu suggested, worry etched on her face. I don't know, but we shouldn't dwell on it right now, I mumbled, trying to brush it off. But little did I know how wrong I was. I was in pain, lots of it, but I didn't want to show it, so I masked it with a brave and confident look. This battle wasn't over, and I wouldn't stop just because I was hurting. I had to keep going. That premonition YN had was starting to worry me. Oh. What if what she described actually happened? I wished she could tell me how all of this ends. Anyway, I can't believe we managed to catch all of them at once. It took everything I had to keep my composure. I mumbled, losing track of my thoughts until Tsuyu brought me back to reality. Instead of second-guessing what we did, shouldn't we be thinking of our next move? YN asked, crossing her arms. My next move is to bring you to safety and make sure you aren't hurt, was what I wanted to say, but I decided on something else. We should prioritize getting help. If we follow the path to the exit, we can avoid the central plaza entirely, I explained, pointing in the direction I wanted us to go. Good idea. That way we won't run into the villains Mr. Aizawa is facing, Tsu said, making me think about how he was handling things. Can he really manage on his own? How long can he hold out against a big group like that? If he doesn't get some backup, he might overexert himself. He could end up defeated by those villains while trying to keep us safe, I said, looking down. Don't tell me you're suggesting we. Are you trying to get us killed? Mineta whispered yelled. I'm not saying we should jump into the middle of a battle, but maybe we can find a way to take a few of those guys out and lighten Aizawa's load. I said, letting out a frustrated sigh, not entirely convinced by my own idea. We had our first real fight and won. But that only gave us false hope. It made us think our powers could actually work against the enemy. We would soon learn how wrong we were. Little did we know that going to help Aizawa would be the worst mistake we ever made. Fire. A girl with glowing white eyes and hair. Villains frozen in time. All Might down. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I whispered. It happened again. Why and... Are you crying? Izuku said, grabbing my hand and snapping me out of my trance. Huh? I asked, bringing a hand to my face and feeling something wet. Was it another vision? He asked, wiping away my tears, and I could see the worry growing in his eyes. Nodding, I told him and everyone else what I saw. Those visions could happen at any moment, and I know you said not to worry about them, but I'm really starting to worry, Mineta said, his voice trembling. Let's just go help Aizawa and then get out of here, I mumbled as I started to walk away. Are you sure? Mineta could be right, you know, Sue said, her concern evident. As long as we hurry to help Aizawa and leave before anything else happens, we should be fine, I replied, and that settled it. After a while, we finally made it close to where the battle was taking place. We hid behind a rock near the water, where we could retreat if necessary. Remember, guys, we're just here to see how things are going, all right? Mineta reminded us, and we all nodded. We'll get out of here the second it seems dangerous, Izuku said, glancing at me before turning his attention back to the battle. We watched as Aizawa fought valiantly, moving with impressive skill. I felt honored to witness his strength firsthand. Now I understood why those who ranked high in the entrance exam were placed in his and All Might's class. We were truly fortunate. However, I noticed how out of breath Aizawa was becoming. He was struggling to keep up. Suddenly, I heard running footsteps and turned to my left to see a man with pale blue hair and hands all over his body rushing toward Aizawa. Final boss, Aizawa muttered to himself as he grabbed his scarf, preparing to confront the enemy. The villain seized Aizawa's scarf just as Aizawa lunged forward, landing a punch in the villain's stomach. Yes, I whispered in excitement. Hold on, look, Sue said, pointing at the villain's hand gripping Aizawa's elbow. I noticed Aizawa's hair stop floating, indicating he had ceased using his quirk. Oh no, I said worriedly as I watched his elbow begin to harden ominously. We have to help him, I said frantically, about to rise, but Izuku stopped me. Why no? You'll get hurt. Even worse, the vision you had might come true. You need to stay here and let him handle it, no matter how bad it looks right now. Izuku's voice trembled, but I could tell he wanted to help too. I looked back at Aizawa, who managed to punch the villain quickly before any more damage could be done. Aizawa jumped back, but more villains closed in on him. He was holding his own, but it was clear he was struggling to breathe. I felt a surge of frustration at being forced to hide. You're still standing. You really are impressive, the villain taunted, admiring Aizawa's resilience. Suddenly, a flash of a vision struck me, showing Aizawa hurt and lifeless. Is this another vision? I thought, panic rising within me. Oh, by the way, I am not the final boss, the villain chuckled, and I turned to see a monstrous bird-like creature looming behind Aizawa. Aizawa turned around and saw it too, and that's when the worst happened. The creature swiped at his face, sending him reeling. Aizawa stumbled as the creature continued to strike, leaving him bruised and battered before slamming him face-first into the ground. We remained frozen, hands covering our mouths, too terrified to move or help. I saw this coming. I whispered, tears streaming down my cheeks. What? Izuku asked, tearing his gaze from the horrifying scene to look at me. He was crying too. I had a vision right before that thing came. It showed me a bloody and lifeless Aizawa. I sobbed, my body shaking with fear. I knew I should have done something. I growled and Izuku pulled me close, shielding my view. He isn't dead. I know he's not, he whispered, rubbing my back. This was it, the evil that heroes faced. We were witnessing it for the first time, but the worst was yet to come. So what do you think of him, Eraserhead? He's the opposite of the symbol of peace. But you can call him Nomu, the villain with pale blue hair said proudly as the grotesque creature screeched, causing Aizawa to cry out in pain as Nomu broke his arm. He's still alive. Sue whispered, glancing back at Aizawa. That means we have time to save him before what happens in my vision actually occurs. I said, looking at Izuku, who seemed torn about whether to reveal ourselves to the villains. I heard Aizawa scream again, trying to erase Nomu's quirk, but it was ineffective. It seemed that Nomu was incredibly strong, even without powers. Or perhaps it wasn't human at all. I know now, I said, catching Izuku, Sue, and Mineta's attention. That Nomu is meant to destroy All Might. That's why these villains left him for last. I nodded as Sue asked, You really think so? We watched as Nomu lifted Aizawa's head, revealing the pain etched on his face before smashing it back into the ground, causing cracks to form. No, I can't watch this anymore. We should be getting out of here fast, shouldn't we? Mineta said, covering his mouth, trying to suppress his cries. I looked at Izuku, hoping to gauge his thoughts, but he was still deep in thought. I turned back to the battle and noticed a shadowy figure appearing next to the pale-haired villain. Tamura Shigaraki, the shadowy figure said. So that was the name of the villain. Kurojairi, Tamura replied, addressing the shadow man. Kurojairi, did you manage to take care of 13? Tamura asked. The rescue hero is out of commission, but there were students I couldn't disperse, and one of them got outside the facility, Kurojairi explained. I gasped, both at the fate of 13 and the realization that help from the rest of the UA faculty and heroes was finally on the way. I felt a wave of fear wash over me, knowing that All Might was on his way, and my visions were still looming over us. I glanced at Tamura, who looked both angry and annoyed. Ugh, let's just go home, he said, leaving me confused. Wait, did I hear that correctly? Mineta asked, equally puzzled. Yeah, I heard it too, I replied, shocked. But what about your visions? Were they fake? Or did we just prevent them by not doing anything? Izuku questioned. I shrugged, genuinely unsure of what was happening. Well, if we did prevent your vision from coming true, that's great. The villains will leave, and we can help Aizawa get to safety while we wait for backup, Mineta said with a relieved smile. Everyone nodded, except for me. I still wasn't entirely convinced that the battle was over. Hold on. I have a really bad feeling about this, I said, looking at them. I don't think this is over yet. My words caused their relieved smiles to fade. Turning back to the villains, we noticed how eerily quiet it had become, and they hadn't moved an inch since we last saw them. Oh. Before we leave, let's make sure the symbol of peace is shattered, Tamura said, locking eyes with Izuku and me. We had been spotted. Let's crush his pride. Tamura shouted, appearing in front of us in an instant. Let's make this hurt, shall we? He lunged for Tsu first. Everything seemed to slow down as Tamura's hand approached Tsu's face. I couldn't save her in time. Tsu. Tamura grabbed her face, but then nothing happened. What? You really are cool, Tamura said unexpectedly, and I turned to see Aizawa had neutralized Tamura's quirk. This was my chance. Just then, Nomu slammed Aizawa to the ground, and I inhaled sharply. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Izuku preparing to use one for all. Let her go, we both shouted, unleashing our quirks on Tamura just in time. A powerful gust of wind and smoke erupted, sending people reeling and causing light posts to topple. As the smoke cleared, I looked at Izuku, surprised to see his hand unharmed. Then we glanced up to realize that Tamura hadn't taken the hit Nomu had. You two are pretty strong, huh? Tamura said from behind Nomu. That smash of yours and that air quirk. I wonder if one of you is one of All Might's disciples? It doesn't matter. I'm done with you two now. Tamura sounded bored, and Nomu turned to face us. I had never felt so terrified in my life. Nomu was about to grab me when Izuku pushed me out of the way. Izuku, no! I yelled as I watched Nomu seize his arm. Time slowed again as Tsu reached for Izuku with her tongue, but Tamura was preparing to attack Mineta and Tsu simultaneously. Then, the door exploded open. Everyone turned to the exit to see. All Might. Have no fear, students. I am here, he declared loudly. Tears filled my eyes as relief washed over me. We were saved. Mineta cried, overwhelmed with emotion. Tsu quickly used her tongue to pull Izuku away from Nomu. He's here. All Might, Izuku said, his voice shaky as Tsu set him down beside her. It was a relief to see him, but I knew the villains had a plan that could endanger him. Plus, my visions. They could still come true. Looks like we aren't going home after all, Tamura laughed, delighting in our fear. This was a nightmare. To be continued. All Might was here. He wasn't smiling. I had never seen him so furious. After all this waiting, the heroic piece of trash shows up. Tamura said, laughing, making me flinch. I needed to warn All Might about the villain's plans, but how? I still didn't know how to use my speed quirk or communicate through Mind Link. The villains were discussing how massive All Might was and how they planned to defeat him when All Might leaped into the battlefield. He struck villains left and right, not giving them a moment to react. I really wanted to ask him to teach me some of his moves. After dispatching the villains, he rushed to Aizawa, lifting him effortlessly. I could faintly hear All Might apologizing to him in a low voice. I couldn't help but ship them, even if they weren't romantically involved. Who knows what could be beneath the surface? All Might appeared in front of us in an instant, gathering us and whisking us away from Tamura and Nomu. I noticed that the hand covering Tamura's face had fallen, revealing a face lined with wrinkles and red eyes, reminiscent of Bakugo's but devoid of life. What the heck? Mineta exclaimed, staring at Tamura as All Might set us down. Everyone back to the entrance. Take Aizawa with you. He doesn't have much time, All Might instructed. Tsu and Mineta nodded, but Izuku and I hesitated to leave. All Might, you can't. That brain villain took one for I smashed him and didn't break my arm this time. But he wasn't fazed at all. He's too strong, Izuku said, gripping Aizawa. Young Midoriya, All Might replied, then turned back to the villains, giving Izuku a peace sign. I've got this, he assured, convincing Izuku, but I remained unconvinced. I'm going to stay and help you, I insisted, looking up at him. No, FN. You go help Midoriya. I can handle these villains on my own, he said, focusing on the threat ahead. But All Might, I started to explain my visions, but he interrupted me. I said no, and that's final. You aren't ready to face things like this, so please. For me, go and help Midoriya, he said. I looked down and ran up to Izuku, who wasn't far ahead. I couldn't let All Might face this alone. I turned invisible and made my way back to the battle without Izuku and the others noticing. When I arrived back where All Might was, I saw him standing still, meaning the fight hadn't begun yet. I hid behind a bush and deactivated my invisibility quirk for the moment. Carolinea smash! All Might shouted as he prepared to strike Tamura, but Nomu intervened. The impact barely affected him, only causing the water around them to ripple. Nomu swung at All Might, but he dodged just in time. I guess Midoriya wasn't wrong when he said it had no effect on you. All Might exclaimed as he punched Nomu in the stomach, but it had little impact. He followed up with 2 punches to Nomu's face, which also seemed ineffective. Nomu screeched as he attempted to hit All Might again, but All Might swiftly backed away. Doesn't even matter where I punch you, does it? All Might questioned, stopping his retreat. He continued to punch Nomu repeatedly, but the creature only stumbled slightly. This bizarre, bird-like creature was incredibly strong. Tamura said something that gave All Might an idea on how to defeat Nomu. All Might dashed behind Nomu, grabbed him, and slammed him down, causing a cloud of smoke to billow up. When the smoke cleared, my eyes widened. Kurogiri created a portal, allowing Nomu to grab All Might while All Might held onto Nomu. I noticed blood trickling from All Might's mouth. Oh no, he's running out of time. What do I do? Nomu began to press hard against All Might's sides, causing more blood to flow. No, I whispered. Nomu pressed harder, digging his fingers into the wounds. Stop it. I raised my voice, but they couldn't hear me. Nice work, Kurogiri. We've got him just where we want him, Tamura laughed. I watched as All Might struggled to free himself from Nomu's grip, blood pouring from his wounds. I needed to act, but my body wouldn't move. My visions were becoming a reality. I saw All Might's body being pulled into the portal but then suddenly stop. Because Izuku dashed past me, ready to attack. Izuku, no! I shouted as I ran after him. Just as he was about to be Sekidi into Kurogiri's portal, Bakugo appeared out of nowhere and exploded, saving Izuku. Todoroki joined in, freezing Nomu and giving All Might a chance to escape, but he was clearly in agony. I was about to say something when Jiro arrived as well. You guys, I said, tears beginning to fall. Stay back, Evan, Izuku instructed, positioning himself in front of me. I couldn't respond, I was too shocked and paralyzed. I genuinely thought All Might was going to die right then and there, but then they showed up. Yet in my vision I saw other lifeless bodies, indicating that it could be them, and it could happen at any moment. Nomu! Tamura called. Nomu emerged from the portal and shattered the ice, causing his right hand and leg to tear off, leaving everyone in shock. But then, new limbs grew back, making me cringe at the grotesque sight. "Stay back, everyone!" All Might yelled, stepping in front of us. I forgot to mention, Nomu also has super regeneration. Isn't that cool? Tamura said with a laugh, getting on my nerves. Nomu has been modified to withstand even 100% of your power. He's basically a highly efficient punching bag that hits back. My face went pale. No way. I watched as everyone took a fighting stance. I wanted to do the same, but my body was still frozen in place. What was wrong with me? "Get them, Nomu," Tamura commanded, and that's when everything happened. Everything I had seen in my vision. I didn't even see him coming. In the blink of an eye, Nomu struck everyone, breaking bones starting with Bakugo and ending with Izuku. Just before he reached me, All Might appeared and pushed me out of the... I looked back to see Nomu grabbing him and bending him. "No," I gasped, struggling to stand. "Stop." I watched in horror as All Might bled more and more. And then, he was snapped in half, blood spraying everywhere. I screamed, and that's when everything went black. In a third-person perspective, FN's eyes glowed white as her hair turned completely white. Everything around her froze in time. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at the lifeless bodies of her friends, the man who was like a father to her, the love of her life, and her best friend all gone. "I'm sorry," she whispered, raising her hand, which began to glow with different colors. Slowly, everything resumed back to before Nomu attacked. Once time resumed, she unfroze everyone. Her eyes remained glowing, and her hair was still white as she stood behind everyone once again. She watched as Nomu lunged at Bakugo, but before he could strike, she quickly pushed Bakugo out of the way, taking the hit and crashing hard against the wall. The force pushed everyone back as smoke began to rise and then clear. That force. Midoriya groaned as he got up. He looked over to where Bakugo had been, only to see Nomu there with Kurogiri. "Kaken!" Midoriya yelled, staring at the wall where smoke still lingered. He then looked down and noticed Bakugo was next to him the whole time. "Kaken! Wow, that's awesome! You dodged him!" Midoriya exclaimed, and the others looked at Bakugo in amazement. "Shut up, no I didn't, you demon nerd," Bakugo replied, wide-eyed in shock, leaving everyone confused. "Did All Might save you then?" Midoriya asked, worry creeping into his voice. "All Might is right there," Todoroki pointed out, indicating behind him. "That speed. I couldn't even see her," All Might said, his face pale. They all looked towards the wall where the smoke began to clear. Izuku's POV. As the smoke dissipated, a girl with glowing white eyes and white hair emerged. "No way. Is that Ifin?" I recalled her visions. Were they actually coming true? Incredible. "So you're the one that scientist gave the red substance to, huh? That wasn't meant for you." Tamura growled, causing my eyes to widen. Was that scientist part of his League of Villains? And what did he mean by that last part? "FN!" I shouted as I noticed her coughing, a hint of red at the corner of her mouth. I was about to rush to her side when All Might stopped me. "Don't," he warned, watching her intently. "You shouldn't have done that." Finn glared at Tamura and the other two villains. What was she thinking? She could get herself hurt. All Might stepped beside her. "I'll stay and fight with her. You all go." But I didn't want to leave. None of us did. "Nomu, Kurogiri, take down All Might and bring me that girl. I'll handle the kids," Tamura commanded as the other two villains prepared for action. The moment he finished speaking, he charged straight for us while Nomu lunged at All Might. Suddenly I saw Fun vanish from her spot and reappear right in front of me, radiating an overwhelming power. As All Might and Nomu exchanged blows, FN mirrored their actions, sending Tamura flying, though he landed unscathed. "You're such a nuisance." Tamaru shouted, as a gust of wind swirled around us. FN appeared in front of All Might just as he stumbled back, throwing punches at Nomu, who retaliated in kind. Neither seemed fazed by the other's attacks. The wind intensified, making it difficult to approach them or Tamaru and Kurogyari on the opposite side. Nomu struck FN hard in the stomach, causing her to cough, but she quickly retaliated with a punch that was 10 times stronger. She pushed him back with every blow, creating explosive impacts as she fought. "Leave my friends alone," she shouted, her fists flying faster, each hit accompanied by bursts of energy. She was winning. All Might and the others watched her in awe. She could easily be mistaken for a pro hero. Every single one of those punches. They're not random. They're targeted. Every single one of them. All Might observed, his gaze fixed on her. I wasn't sure if he had even blinked. I was wrong about her. She is capable of fighting villains, he admitted, his voice heavy with guilt. I turned back to the fight just in time to see her yell and send Nomu flying. She teleported again, not allowing him a moment to recover. Grabbing his arm, she lifted him into the air before slamming him down hard, causing the ground to tremble. She landed with a force that sent debris flying alongside Nomu. "Don't you ever mess with my friends again," she declared, preparing to unleash all for one. "Go beyond. Plus UL tire." She screamed as she punched Nomu in the stomach, creating a massive explosion that sent him flying out of the dome, igniting lights and shaking the ground even more. "I have never seen anyone so powerful," Ijiro remarked. "She matches All Might's strength." Todoroki added, "Imagine having powers like that." Bakugo said, all of us staring wide-eyed at Tiffin, as fire surrounded her and the wind blew through her hair, making her look incredibly fierce. But there were still 2 villains left to confront, so the battle wasn't over yet. "I would leave if I were you. Or do you want to face the consequences?" Tiffin warned, glaring at Tamaru and Kurogyari, blood trickling down her face as flames flickered around her fist. I noticed Tamaru trembling with rage. "You cheater! That power isn't yours, it was meant for me," he shouted. "So that power, it was intended for him all along. But why did that scientist give it to FN? I'll give you 20 seconds to leave or you'll regret it," she threatened, the fire in her fist intensifying. "I don't think we're going anywhere, girlie," Tamaru replied, smirking as he pointed behind us. Suddenly, the villains who had been unconscious began to stir. "This is bad," Ijiro exclaimed. "Oh no," All Might said, knowing he couldn't fight anymore. One more hit and he would revert to his weaker form. "Don't worry," we heard Thun say, smiling at us. "Clone," she commanded, and hundreds of her duplicates appeared beside her. This was incredible. "Scatter," she ordered, and every clone teleported in front of each villain. "Destroy," she commanded again, a smirk on her face as they all charged at the villains. Bakugo, Ijiro, and Todoroki joined the fray. I stayed back, watching my girlfriend's every move. "Consider this revenge for what you did to Nomu," Tamaru yelled as he charged at FN, alongside Kurogyari. She was in danger. Quickly activated my quirk and leaped toward her, feeling the strain on my legs from using 5% of One for All, but I pressed on. I prepared to strike Kurogyari, hoping to take him out of the fight. "Don't you dare touch, FN," I shouted, readying my attack, but then Tamaru's hand appeared out of nowhere, threatening to strike me. I felt a wave of panic. Just then, a bullet struck Tamaru's hand. I landed on the ground and looked up to see that backup had arrived, along with Ida. He did it. I had never felt so relieved in my life. I watched as FN's clones faded away, causing the villains to look up at the real pros in fear. I saw Tamaru retreating, getting hit by bullets, but Kurogyari shielded him and warped him away from the battlefield, surrendering. We had won. All thanks to FN and her incredible powers, and Ida for bringing help. I looked up at FN and saw tears streaming down her face. "I'm so happy," she said as she closed her eyes, her hair returning to its original color. She began to fall back, but fortunately, All Might caught her. Tears welled up in my eyes as I looked at All Might. I felt ashamed because I couldn't help him at all. What kind of successor was I? I'm sorry. I failed to help you. I told him, looking down in shame. That is absolutely not true, he said, making me look up at him in shock. Half of his body was in a weakened state while the other was not. You bought me a few vital seconds and helped keep F.N. safe, something I couldn't even do. So you were a big help, and I thank you for that. You saved me once again, he said, making me cry again. I really needed to keep these tears under control. Thank you, All Might, I said, letting out a sob. I'm just so glad that you're both okay. He smiled at me and nodded. Midoriya, hey. I looked to my left to see Ijiro making his way toward me. Oh no, if he comes here, he'll see All Might in his weakened state. Ijiro, wait. I yelled, but before I could say anything, a wall appeared. I looked the other way to see that it was the work of a pro hero. Thank goodness. I glanced at All Might, who looked relieved too. He then turned his attention to F.N., who was unconscious on his lap. I crawled a bit closer and gently brushed some of her hair back from her dirty yet beautiful face. I wonder if she'll remember all of this, I said, looking at her with worry. It's possible, All Might replied, easing my concerns a little. Thank you, Cementos. You saved me, All Might said to the pro hero standing behind him. My pleasure. I'm actually a big fan of yours, Cementos replied, making All Might chuckle. You really did a number in here, huh? Cementos remarked. Actually, this wasn't my doing. It was this young lady's, All Might said, pointing to F.N. You're kidding, right? Cementos asked in disbelief. While I was watching F.N. fight, I caught a few security cameras around the dome. Maybe there are some that still work, and you can show the faculty at school what she did, I suggested. You're right. I'll ask 13 to let me see them at some point this week, All Might said. Anyway, we need to find a way to sneak you out of here and get you 3 to the nurse's office, Cementos said, and we nodded in agreement. Time skip. I was lying in a hospital bed near the windows. All Might was in the bed next to mine and F.N. was in the one in front of me. Recovery girl said she would be fine, but she might be in a coma for a week, depending on how fast she recovers. She had lost a lot of blood and nearly pushed herself beyond her limits. All Might was okay, which was a relief, and he was awake as well. I only had broken legs and a broken finger, so F.N. was the most injured. Well, I guess I won't scold you for Midoriya being back here. That wasn't your fault. I will have to talk to that girl for almost going over her limits, though, Recovery Girl said. I'll speak to her about that when she awakens. But that aside, I think I shortened my time again with that fight. I pushed past my limits as well, All Might said, making me gasp. But anyway, I hope I can at least hold my strong form for an hour, All Might finished. I'm so sorry, I said, looking at him with worried eyes. Well, no use worrying. These things happen, All Might said as he sat up. I still blamed myself for not helping them more, though. My thoughts were interrupted as a man in a cream-colored jacket and fedora entered the room. Excuse me. Hi, All Might. Been a while, huh? The man said. What the hell? I didn't know you were investigating? All Might exclaimed as some blood trickled from his mouth. All Might, is it okay for him to see you like this? I asked, concerned. Oh yeah, it's fine. This guy's all right, All Might assured me, and I nodded. His name is Naomasa Tsukachi, my best friend on the police force. I trust him completely, All Might explained. Oh cool, I said with a smile. Hee hee, that's quite an introduction. Sorry to cut to the chase, but we could really use some of the information you might have, Tsukachi said. Hold on, before all that, please tell me all of the students are okay? And Aizawa, I mean Eraserhead and 13? All Might asked, and I leaned in, eager to hear the answer. Not counting this boy and the girl over there, only a few students had light injuries, and the 2 teachers are in stable condition for now, he explained, which made All Might and me let out a relieved sigh. That's good to hear, All Might said. If you 3 heroes, plus that girl, hadn't risked your lives, then the other students wouldn't have survived, Tsukachi said with a bright smile. You're not seeing the whole picture here, Tsukachi. The students also fought and risked their lives, especially that young lady lying right in front of us, All Might said as we all looked at Thifin. She looked beautiful as the sunset light hit her face and the breeze gently blew her hair. I wished I could just get up from this bed and express my feelings for her. Thank you, All Might, I said, shaking those thoughts out of my head. Before she fainted, she said that she was happy. I said, smiling. I'm glad. All Might replied. Tsukachi looked confused, so All Might promised to explain later. I don't think there has ever been a group of first years who experienced a real fight like this so early in their training. And not only survived, but they learned what it means to be a pro. Those villains made a mistake in attacking them. This class is strong and filled with courage. Mark my words. They'll become great heroes, All Might concluded. He was right. I was going to work harder than ever to rise to the very top together with FN. It was our promise after all. I looked at All Might and he smiled, giving me a thumbs up as I nodded and gazed outside. We had no way of knowing, but the League of Villains attack at the USJ was just the beginning. A bigger incident was on the horizon. We were all just grateful to be alive, having shown that we had the potential to be real heroes. But the worst was yet to come. I woke up to a gentle breeze brushing against my face, accompanied by the warm light of the sun. As I looked around, I realized I was in the nurse's office. Confusion washed over me as I tried to piece together how I ended up there, but then the memories hit me like a meteor. I remembered watching All Might fall. I witnessed my friend's fall. Most painfully of all, I saw my best friend and first love perish. Oh no! I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Just as I was about to rise, a flashback suddenly engulfed me. I had reversed time. Saved everyone. Help had arrived, and no one had died. I'm so happy, I murmured before fainting and slipping into a deep slumber. When the flashback faded, I found myself staring at the white wall in front of me. They're alive. I whispered again, looking down at my lap as more tears fell. FN? A voice called from the door. That voice. I couldn't believe I was hearing it again. I slowly looked up, a small smile forming on my lips. Izuku, I said, locking eyes with my best friend. Tears streamed down his face as he rushed towards me, enveloping me in a warm embrace. I was so scared. I thought I lost you, he said, pulling back slightly to look at me before pressing his lips to mine. I had missed this so much. His kiss was filled with the love I had longed for, and I never wanted to let him go. He pulled away, resting his forehead against mine as he held my hand. Oh, Effin, it's so good to see you awake, All Might said from the doorway, causing me to glance behind Izuku. All Might, are you okay? I asked, recalling how injured he had been during the battle. I'm fine. The teachers and students are okay as well, he replied, taking a seat near my bed. Izuku remained beside me, still holding my hand. Thank goodness. How long have I been out? I asked, noticing the clock read 4 p.m., indicating class had ended some time ago. You've been unconscious for 2 days, Izuku said, frowning. 2 days? I exclaimed, but the sudden outburst gave me a headache. Relax, FN. All that matters is that you saved many lives and that you're okay. All Might reassured me, helping me to relax as I leaned my head on Izuku's shoulder. Now that you're awake, there are a few things we need to discuss, All Might continued, and I listened intently. All of the villains around the world are aware of you, so we need to ramp up training for you and the other students, especially with the sports festival approaching. The mention of villains sent a shiver down my spine, but excitement bubbled within me at the thought of the sports festival. Since you're okay and your injuries have healed, you'll return to school tomorrow. Izuku and I will take you home now, so go change, he instructed. I nodded, and as I stood, it took me a moment to regain my balance. Izuku took my hand, guiding me to the bathroom. I mumbled a quick thank you before closing the door. Once I changed into leggings and my FC hoodie, I slipped on my black Vans and tied my hair into a messy bun. When I emerged, Izuku suggested we grab a bite at McDonald's since I was hungry and my parents weren't home. After our meal, Izuku stayed at my place, and we watched a movie together until he had to leave. The next day, I got ready for school, walking hand in hand with Izuku. It felt like a normal day, except during break, we finally announced our relationship to everyone. Most were happy for us, except Bakugo, who seemed perplexed by my choice in Izuku. I playfully smacked him on the head, and everyone laughed. My classmates asked how I was feeling and commented on how impressive I had been during the battle. They even showed me footage from the cameras inside the dome, and I was amazed by what I saw, even though it didn't capture the moment I reversed time. It only showed what happened afterward. Overall, it was just another day. I wondered what tomorrow would bring. Yeah. Why is it so short? Well, that's because I have something planned, but it will be in a separate chapter. It's a surprise, so I won't say anything more. Just know that it's another fun and lengthy chapter, so get ready. It's also the last chapter because I'm planning a second book. Until next time, dear readers. Your POV. I was walking to school with Izuku and Uraraka today. Yesterday, Mr. Aizawa mentioned that we would be doing something special, but he didn't reveal what it was. This left everyone excited and anxious. Now we were sitting in class, waiting for our teacher's arrival. Aizawa entered the room just after the bell rang. Good morning, class. As you might remember, I mentioned yesterday that we would be doing something sort of special, he said, capturing our attention. Today, we are playing dodgeball. We all smiled, though our excitement was tempered. Oh, just a normal school game, I heard Mineta mutter. Not quite. This dodgeball game will be a bit different. Did you forget that this is a superhero school? Aizawa replied, igniting our enthusiasm. All right, go put on your P uniforms and meet me in the gym. I walked out with the other girls in the class and headed toward the girls' locker room. So, FN, has Midoriya taken you out on a date yet? Ashido asked. No, he hasn't. But I bet he will soon. We've just been busy, that's all, I replied, finishing up in my P uniform and tying my HL hair back into a ponytail. Okay, Uraraka said. Once we were all finished, we headed to the gym. When we arrived, the boys were already changed and sitting on the floor, chatting. We joined them until Aizawa came into the room. Alright, class. I'm sure you all know how to play dodgeball, right? He asked, and we all nodded. As I mentioned in the classroom, you are allowed to use your quirks. The dodgeballs are made from a special material, so whatever quirk you use won't pop or destroy them. Don't worry, they're still soft so they won't hurt when you get hit. We nodded in understanding. I'll be splitting you up. Since there are 21 students in this class, one of you will have to sit out for. I'll explain what I mean by that later. So, who wants to sit out for a little? Aizawa asked. I was about to raise my hand, but Izuku volunteered instead. All right then. Midoriya will play against the last person standing, so try your best, everyone. Team A, you are in this team as well. Team B, Bakugo's in this team, but he didn't fit in. We were all now separated into our groups, waiting for Aizawa to blow the whistle. Izuku stood by, watching us. What's going on here? All Might asked as he entered the gym. He was in his strong form, though he still had a cast on his arm. Just a little friendly game of Quirk dodgeball. Want to watch? Aizawa replied, and All Might nodded. Aizawa raised the whistle to his mouth as my team watched the other team with intense focus. I glanced over at Bakugo, who was on the opposing team, and he was staring right at me. This was going to be harder than I thought, I mused. But then I remembered one of my powers that I had learned to control during training. I began to float slightly off the ground, and when Aizawa blew the whistle, I lifted my hands slowly. All of the dodgeballs began to levitate. Everyone's eyes widened, including Aizawa's, Izuku's, and All Might's. I soared high, leveling myself with the dodgeballs, and smirked. I then shouted, "Meteor shower!" As soon as I yelled that, I lowered my hands, and all the ball went flying down toward the other team. Oh no! I heard someone yell. That was Siro, who I managed to hit and get out. I watched as a ball struck Hagakure and Koda, making 3 outs now. Shoji was about to catch a ball but let it fall, which meant he was out too. Now the only ones left were Ashido, Aoyama, Ojiro, Sato, Tokoyami, and unfortunately, Baku. I quickly flew down and landed, receiving high fives from my teammates and a thumbs up from All Might, Aizawa, and Izuku. We all looked at the other team as they gathered the ball. Everything happened quickly. Ashido threw her ball, accompanied by a splash of acid, which landed near Mineta, causing him to hesitate just long enough for the ball to hit him. Bakugo launched 2 balls in rapid succession, too fast for anyone to dodge. They struck Kaminari and Ijiro. The rest of the team threw their ball but missed. Now, my team had 7 members, including me, while the other team had 6. I seized a ball and managed to eliminate Aoyama, who was distracted. After a few intense minutes, the only player left on the other team was Bakugo. On my team, only Todoroki and I remained. I need you to fly. Take a ball with you, Todoroki instructed me quietly. I soared into the air, levitating 3 balls, and focused on Bakugo. As Todoroki froze the ground, avoiding Aizawa and the others, Bakugo exploded a ball at him but ended up getting trapped in the ice. Todoroki quickly freed himself. I took this as my cue to throw the ball at Bakugo, hitting him twice before he broke free from the ice. Todoroki unfroze the ground, and I descended slowly as my teammates cheered and came over to high-five me. Midoriya, you're up, Aizawa said, while the others settled down to watch. This should be interesting, All Might remarked, and Aizawa nodded in agreement. I glanced back at Izuku, who was staring intently at me, making me blush. Don't go easy on me, okay? I said with a smirk. Oh, don't worry. I'll give it my all, he replied, returning the smirk. Once Aizawa blew the whistle, Izuku leaped toward the ball, grabbing 2 before jumping and throwing them at me with full force. I dodged just in time, snatching a ball nearby and using my explosion quirk to launch it at him. I nearly hit him, but he managed to evade it. I kept grabbing ball and throwing them at him, using every quirk I had, but he continued to dodge. Can't catch me, he laughed, sticking his tongue out at me. Frustration bubbled inside me until I noticed a ball behind him and then glanced at Aizawa, sparking an idea. I smirked, and Izuku looked confused. I closed my eyes and concentrated, feeling my hair lift and the wind swirl around me. When I opened my eyes, they glowed red. I raised my hands and all the ball lifted off the ground. Izuku prepared to jump away, but my smirk widened as he found himself unable to move. I had taken away his quirk. Using Aizawa's ability combined with my levitation quirk, I had to act quickly before my time ran out. Hey babe, I called out, giving him a sweet smile when he looked at me. Love you, I said, dropping my hands as all the ball flew down, hitting him and declaring me the winner. I closed my eyes as my powers returned to normal. When I opened them, Aizawa was staring at me with wide eyes. When did you learn to do that? He asked as he and the others approached. I shrugged and walked over to Izuku, who stood next to All Might. Are you okay? I asked. He nodded, kissed me, and then pulled away. Good job, babe, he said with a smile, wrapping me in a hug. Afterward, we returned to the classroom for regular lessons and some hero training before packing up to go home. Today had been a fun day. I know this chapter might have been confusing. It takes place after the sports festival. And remember how I mentioned I had some news? There's going to be a second book. Yes, a second book that will cover Season 2 of My Hero Academia. I decided to keep Season 2 separate from this book, which focuses on Season I promise to let you know when I publish it. It will be titled, How You Became a Hero Season 2. I'm so excited to share this book. It's going to be intense and emotional, I promise. I'll keep you updated on the publication. Until next time.